35 at 40 my boyfriend said he will never marry me. How do I proceed? For context, I have been with my boyfriend for almost 2 years now. Throughout our relationship, he has only been the most attentive, loving and thoughtful partner. We share house chores, he would buy me little gifts every now and then, he would call me every day while I'm on my way home from work, he always talk about me with his mates etc. Like, I can't even find a single irritable thing about this guy. Well, except he won't marry me because he promised his late wife that she will be his only wife. She passed away 6 years ago from illness and he was pretty much fucked up for 2 years. After lots of therapy and working on himself, he gradually opened up and we met through a board game group. He never really spoke about her until we became serious. According to him, she was the one that made him believe in true love and the idea of a soul mate. He also claims that he has moved on, but to honor her memory and promise to her, he will never have a second wife. After we have discussed this, he has never mentioned her again. It's our 2nd anniversary soon and I'm just thinking about what I want in my life. I'd really like to get married, I want someone to propose to me and I want a groom with tears in his eyes as he sees me walking down the aisle. I love this man with all my heart and he has given me everything I could ever want in a husband, except he won't be my husband. I honestly don't know what to do. I know it's common thing to be partners in all but paper, but I guess I'm a bit of a traditionalist. I feel like maybe deep down inside him, I'm still second to her. How do I navigate this? Comments. Commenter 1. If you want marriage then unfortunately you're not compatible. Commenter 2. Agree. Be honest with yourself and your partner. Have the difficult conversation. You'll either learn how to grow together, or make the necessary decisions with all info available. Commenter 3. You want to get married. He doesn't. Unfortunately, that makes the two of you incompatible, which means, you break up. He isn't going to give you what you need. Commenter 4. So his late wife made him promise at 34 that he would never marry. I would never do that to my husband, I would want him to be happy again. Does he have children? Does he want any more? Do you want them? If marriage is a deal breaker you know what you have to do, but I wouldn't worry about being second to someone who would leave such a legacy. God rest her soul. I am not trying to speak ill of the dead, just saying. Reply, no. She didn't ask him for that promise. He made it willingly when she was still alive and healthy. He doesn't have children and doesn't want one. I'm on the fence in that regard. Update. A lot of people shared their view with me in my previous post, so I thought of sharing an update. As I expected, he is adamant in his stance. He was also a bit upset that I made him bring up the topic of his late wife as he doesn't like talking about her. I think he just doesn't like remembering that she's dead. But he also understood that I could have doubts about his commitment and where I stand in his life. I'm not quoting him exactly, but he said something like this. My words have meaning and because of this, you know, when I make a promise, I mean it. I said that I will stay with you forever, so I will stay with you forever. If you want a ring, I will give you a ring. If you want to wear a pretty dress, we can get you a pretty dress. But please don't make me go against my word, because if I do, nothing I say will mean anything anymore. I could promise to love you and maybe stop loving you one day and you cannot hold it against me. Mary was my first love after a string of broken relationships. I love the way I love because I learnt it from her. I am who I am because of what I have experienced before. Please understand that sort of impact in my life. I have never compared you to her, I have never actively brought her up in our conversations, I don't even keep mementos of her in our home, I know he keeps them in the bank, out of respect for you. So why do you question my commitment towards you? I honestly don't know how to respond at the end of that. My mind went completely blank and I felt like an idiot. I bawled my eyes out and he just comforted me. We live in a country where defector partners have the same legal rights as a married couple, so I wasn't worried about those issues. I guess I just really needed to hear him affirm his feelings towards me. Those who commented that I merely want a wedding could be right as well. Maybe what I wanted was just the grandiosity of a wedding. So that's something I have to think about. And also, I won't lie that I was extremely jealous of his late wife. Resentment for her is definitely something I should also think about. Someone said couples therapy, but I think the one that actually needs therapy is me. But yeah, that's about it. I'm probably staying because I know he loves me and I do love him. Lots of introspection for myself from here on. Thank you everyone for your kind comments and suggestions. I hope you have a lovely day. Comments. Commenter 1. I swear all the widow relationship posts in Reddit sound like a nightmare. Commenter 2. I feel like if marriage is what you want, you should end this relationship sooner than later. You said you're staying, but I feel like you can't easily get rid of a desire to get married. It could nag you for a long time and your resentment will grow. Commenter 3. You choose a broken pot and it doesn't want to hold any water. Can you accept it for what it is? If you really need water, then you need to let that pot go very gently. Commenter 4. Nope. I did this, once, too. And there is nothing more soul-crushing than watching someone you love neglect your needs for someone who isn't around to care. Promises like that aren't made for late exes, they're made for themselves. The late ex is not doing it to you, he's doing it to you, and he's still making you suffer because someone unfortunately passed. Even if you try to make this work, you're going to get tired of being neglected when you're the one who's there. You're going to eventually feel like that even though you've been around him longer than their relationship, if you stick around that long, that you're still not going to be enough for him to move on into the next chapter of life with. And even then, if somehow you're convinced to be okay with this, you get to watch later in life when it's his turn to go, and you hope to be at his bedside to hold his hand through it. You get to be locked out of that room and forced to wait in the waiting room with no idea what is going on because no one will answer any of your questions and all you can do is wait. He's not just condemning you to being viewed as essentially less valuable, but he's also condemning you to a fate of loneliness and loss greater than what he's experienced. All because he fails to understand that marrying someone and moving forward in life with someone is not a replacement for a previous person, but an entirely different experience that is new and not the same. This is not okay. It's not fair to you, and from my own experience I feel very strongly that you are emotionally being taken advantage of and you're in a position to be gaslit and blamed for however you feel about this. Get tired of it and then you're too pushy, but if he gives you what you then it's your fault he decides to lie and cheat. Get mad at him for wasting your time and he gets to claim he's always been the nice guy and told you how it is. And that ambiguously threatening, if you make me into a dishonorable person no good to my word. If you do this to me, fucking man up dude and stop making someone accountable for your own choices. Yes, in adult life sometimes people make promises they realize they can't keep, yes that's life. I promised to never break up with my high school boyfriend. Surprise, I'm 40, and I'm not with my high school boyfriend. But that doesn't mean my whole life is a lie. I am so sorry you are going through this I really feel for you. And this thread in particular triggers me because I went through 4 years of this in a relationship that lasted longer and had more life events than what the dude did with his late ex, but for all the times I held him when he cried, all the sacrifices I gave, all the love I poured into it, and all the times I put his needs first, from taking care of his senile dementia mother who wouldn't stop threatening me, to risking myself pulling his dog out of a fire, always having his back. It was never enough to finally accept building a legitimate future and all the privileges that come with it. You don't get the house shopping, you don't get to be in the know during emergencies, you don't get the, oh it's so nice to meet his wife, when he starts a new job. You get, if you were such a great girlfriend why doesn't he marry you, and the, nope we're not going to discuss procedures and costs with you because you're just a girlfriend, and if you stick around long haul until end of life. Either it's, you can't take time off work to mourn his passing because bereavement leave is for family only, and you also need to find a new place to live because that's his house and his family decided to run the eviction process on you, so now you're homeless, mourning, still have to go to work. And you might be lucky to go to the funeral but you're not going to be able to keep anything to remember him by because his family wants it. I don't mean to sound like I'm projecting but please don't do this to yourself. You're going to end up with a complex if you stick around, where he has cock-blocked your entire life despite you're the one there to do the heavy lifting. Sometimes jealousy is not supposed to be ignored. So please move on, don't do 4 years like I did. It's been a while now but I now have to do therapy to be able to function in the relationship that actually is living the dream for me. Commenter 5. Your boyfriend has not processed his grief, and he is not over his ex. You're putting yourself second in your own relationship, and he's told you outright he'll never be yours completely. That's not good enough. This situation has already eroded your self-worth and will continue to do so. It is utterly disrespectful on his side, and you should treat yourself better than that. Stories number 2. Aita for leaving my husband and stepdaughter stranded on Christmas when I found out he gave her my big Christmas gift. My husband, 41M, is the worst at gift giving. We have been together over 3 years and after the first year of not receiving anything for my birthday, anniversary, Christmas, Valentine's, Mother's Day was the last straw after being told I wasn't his mother. I decided to start matching energy. Father's Day came and I was gone all day when normally I would have put together a big lunch dinner and drive 30-45 minutes to go get his daughter and, now 16, so they could spend the day together. He called me in the afternoon and I was polite but not initiating conversation. He asked me when I was picking up his daughter and I replied I had plans and wasn't aware that I was supposed to pick her up since nothing was communicated to me. When he responded with "It's Father's Day," I used his response back, "You are not my father." I had anticipated him getting upset and knew a constructive conversation would not be had, so when he started to raise his voice I told him check the table and hung up. I had left a letter to him communicating how much I was hurt about going out of my way for him and to not have any sort of reciprocation. He called me later and said he would try to be better and work on it. I ended up going to get his daughter during the week so they could enjoy a dinner together. Background info: He drives big rig trucks, so the vehicle we use for everyday travel is mine. He's been better about the gifts, it's more of go pick something out and I will pay for it, which I really don't mind. He does the same thing with his daughter. I do all the shopping for his family gifts when it comes to birthdays and holidays. Cut to a week before Christmas and I wake up to my favorite coffee drink and my husband taking me out to eat for breakfast, followed by a trip to the mall to pick out my Christmas gift. I rarely splurge on myself when it comes to purses and clothes. I have a preteen son from my first marriage, so I tend to be more practical on myself and spend on him for his birthday and Christmas. My stepdaughter, however, is very materialistic and always is asking for money or something expensive, and between her father and his family and her mother and her family and her stepfather, she always gets it. I had been repeatedly saying out loud that I needed a new purse since mine was hanging on by a thread and had decided to invest in a good designer handbag. I started saving money and looking online for my new dream purse. So imagine my surprise and excitement when we get to the department store and I see they have my dream purse in stock. My husband sort of gave a look when he saw the price, and I told him I could contribute and explained how I had been saving so I could save enough to get this purse that I had been dreaming about for months. He shook his head and said I deserved it and he would get it for me, but also gave me the expectation that since he was getting me this he really couldn't afford to get me anything else. I screamed with delight and told him that was okay, I didn't need anything else. With that taken care of, my husband asked me if it was okay to go get his daughter and take her Christmas shopping. I had tons to do at home in preparation for the holiday, so this worked out so I could have the house empty to get what I needed done. I was reaching to get my new purse when we arrived home and he said for me to leave it because he had another gift he had previously purchased for me that he was going to put inside the purse for me to open on Christmas. I was on cloud 9, so I kissed him and left my bag and went inside. I was still busy cleaning and decorating when he got home later that night, and the rest of the days before Christmas were all a blur with me trying to get my house ready for the holiday. I hosted Christmas Eve at my house with my family, and Christmas Day I slept in tired from the night before and woke up with enough time to brush my teeth before we headed out to go get his daughter, then drive to spend the day at his mother's house. I fell asleep on the drive and woke up after his daughter was picked up and we were already en route to his mom's. I turned around to greet his daughter and that's when I saw her rummaging and holding my new purse. "Where did you get that purse?" I asked her, and the car fell completely silent. I looked at my husband and he stayed silent with both hands on the wheel looking straight ahead. I asked her again, this time in a louder, more stern tone. She looked down and quietly mumbled, "My dad gave it to me." "You what?" I screamed. "How would you think it was okay to give her my new purse?" He told me to calm down and I cut him off and screamed no, and then turned back to his daughter and told her that her father had no right to give her my purse and that she needed to give it back, to which she refused. I could feel my anger raging, then subsiding to a feeling of sadness and complete defeat. I put my coat over my head and leaned against the window trying to cover my face and mouth as tears started running down my cheeks. My husband pulled over at the next gas station and his daughter bolted out, taking the purse with her. He tried to comfort me, to which I slapped his hand away and told him not to touch me and gave him a look of disgust. He informed me that after he dropped me off that day he picked up his daughter, took her shopping, and on the way taking her home she noticed the bag and saw the purse. She begged and pleaded with him to please let her have it. She reminded him about all the times he never got her a gift and how giving her this purse would make up for it, and that played on his heart, and he finally caved and gave her my purse. He tried to say he was going to make it up to me and I asked him how, knowing it was impossible. He already spent his money and made it clear that he wasn't going to have money to buy me anything else. I couldn't help but get upset as I tried to get him to understand how hurt I felt and how it's not like she was suffering with her getting to open presents from her mother and stepfather plus gifts from their family along with the gifts she was going to get from his family, and that he already spent money on her for her Christmas presents and that was my one gift. I know Christmas is not about getting presents, but I was extremely upset that my husband could be so thoughtless and not consider the amount of pain this was going to cause me. His phone rang and it was his daughter calling from inside asking him to come inside because she needed money to buy something. As he was walking into the store I looked back and tears began to fill my eyes as I saw all the gifts I picked out for his family with care. Something came over me and I stopped crying and got out and got in the driver's seat and wiped my face and peeled out of the gas station parking lot, leaving my husband and stepdaughter behind. I turned my phone off and drove back to town and spent the day with my family at my cousin's house and stayed with them, not returning any of my husband's phone calls and not returning home until late following day. The only phone call I did return was the one from my stepdaughter's mother to set her straight after she left me a hateful message about leaving her daughter stranded because I was jealous her father bought her a new purse. I told her she had been told a lie and informed her of the truth. That in fact her father did not buy her a new purse, he bought me a new purse, and she played on her father's emotions after he had already bought her expensive items from her Christmas list to guilt him to giving her my purse. She apologized and tried to come up with a solution, to which I replied for her not to bother. The damage has been done. I found out through my SIL that my husband's brother went to go get them and the story came out later that evening. His mother is on his side while his brother and SIL and other aunts and uncles sided with me and got onto his daughter. I have not spoken to his daughter since Christmas and things are unsettling at home. I have become more distant from my husband and when I make dinner I don't serve him a plate, I serve only my son and myself and I only engage in conversation with my son. He's tried to reach for me at night when we are in bed and I always end up crying. I am not angry or mad, I just feel nothingness. He's back on the road and I do miss him but I can't shake the feeling of how he let me down and I cannot hide my looks of disappointment. Looking to see what others have to say about the situation. Top comments. Commenter 1, NTA, but why are you in this marriage? You don't matter to your husband. Period. Commenter 2, she's doing so much to make it easier for her husband to treat her the way she deserves to be treated. She has literally begged him. If he isn't doing it by now, he never will. She deserves so much better. Commenter 3, same. Immediate divorce. No counseling, etc. He doesn't care about his wife at all and has been using her as bang maid all this time. Commenter 4, the way he has continually ignored you on all major events and milestones, and then gave away your first actual gift, that you had to choose and partially pay for, is appalling. NTA. Commenter 5, take your son and go back to your family. Yes, it will be hard, but it won't be as hard as staying in a relationship where you don't matter. Your husband slapped you in the face on Christmas. What did he think was going to happen when you arrived at your destination and the presents were given out and there was nothing for you? Don't get over it, get over him. Does he even want a wife? He doesn't sound like he cares for you at all. Commenter 6, NTA. He gave away your gift without asking and used guilt to justify it. That's a major betrayal. It's not about the purse, it's about feeling unheard and disrespected. You had every right to stand your ground and take space. Update. I had updated on my original post but I don't know if it gets put back out so readers can view it. I figured it was easier to start a new post with my update. Update. Wow. I did not expect this to blow up like it did. Thank you to everyone who reached out. I meant to come back and update sooner, my apologies. I wanted to clear up some things and defend myself on not being as pathetic as some made me out to be. 1. I did not pay for the purse, I offered but he paid the full amount. 2. He technically pays for the gifts for his family for Christmas. We have an account that he puts money on and this is what is used to pay the bills and other expenses along with gifts for his family for birthdays and other special occasions. I am the one who actually shops for the gifts and I make it personal for each person and do all the wrapping and such and add on from my budget what I feel is needed. 3. This had gotten erased when I was first posting trying to edit but is a key factor. When I confronted my stepdaughter about returning the purse she wasn't saying anything, she was refusing by shaking her head no and her father yelled her name and that is when she dropped the bomb on us that she had already written her name in it. She wrote her name in big black permanent marker on the inside of the purse. So that is when my rage just turned into defeat because the purse became worthless to me, hence my getting emotional. 4. People questioning on why react now when I had to have known about him not giving gifts from early on in the relationship. After attending family events with him I noticed right away he never had a gift to give. So when it came to my birthday or Valentine's Day or any special occasion I would take initiative to drive us to wherever I wanted my gift from so he could purchase it. As we got more serious my gifts became trips that I planned and he paid for. So this wasn't going to be my first time getting a gift but it was going to be my first time having an actual gift under the tree. 5. I introduced one of my really good friends to his brother and she is now my sister-in-law and my ally and my source. We met for lunch a week after the new year to exchange gifts. She informed me that after they arrived at his mom's my husband didn't want to talk about what happened. My stepdaughter likes to show off her gifts as most teenagers do, and while they were gathered on the table, trying to talk to my husband she approached and was interrupting and trying to get everyone's attention on her and her new purse and other gifts. SIL said the table fell silent and there were looks between family members and then chaos. Yelling about how my husband arrived empty-handed and aunts and uncles were yelling at him asking how he could get his daughter such an expensive purse and not get his mother anything. That's when he broke and loudly responded, he didn't get his daughter the purse. He got me the purse. His daughter just took the purse. His daughter got upset for being outed and reprimanded by other family members and called her mom to get her. 6. By the time her mother arrived I had already spoken to her about what happened. She went inside to talk to her father because the story she was getting from her daughter was obviously different. It was basically the same story. He took her shopping and on the way back she saw the department store bag and looked inside and saw the purse, started begging for it, then started to guilt trip him to give it to her. He told her no and spoke to her about being ungrateful and selfish. She then tried to get him to take her to a friend's house instead of home, which caused another argument because she is grounded due to failing classes and she knows that she's not allowed to go anywhere. At drop-off she just grabbed her bags and exited the car and slamming the door. When he got back to the house, he reached behind the seat to get the bag and noticed it was empty and realized she took the purse anyway. He called her but she didn't answer and he left a message that she better be ready to give up the purse on Christmas. 7. Her mother had called him and yelled at him for getting her such an expensive purse when she is failing classes, and instead of explaining what happened he just responded that she had no idea what she was talking about and hung up the phone. Her writing her name in the purse was a shock to him and that's what caused him to pull over at the next gas station. He didn't want me more upset with her so he opted not to tell me that she stole it and just took blame. 8. The other gift that he was going to put in the purse, lingerie. It was in a small gift bag on my side of the bed. He was upset when I sent our pitbull Chico downstairs wearing a red nightie. Some comments had the misconception that the purse was going to be the first gift he ever gave me and I wanted to clarify that is not true. I posted about him not getting me a gift on my birthday and Christmas and other occasions. This occurred our first year of marriage. I planned a dinner for my birthday that included my parents and my siblings, close friends and family. My husband arrived empty-handed and over an hour and a half late due to him staying late at work. I kept quiet because I didn't want a scene and have more attention drawn to him about not getting me anything and being so late. This is same reason I cut him off when he looked around at my gifts and flowers from my guest and started saying, "Man, I feel so bad for not getting you." That weekend I woke up to flowers and chocolates sprinkled all over the bed and being taken to breakfast and my husband asking what I still had on my wish list for my birthday so we could go get it. On our first anniversary I set up a table outside with candles and hung up white lights and was preparing beef Wellington and had a bottle of champagne and chocolate-covered strawberries. That morning I woke him up saying happy anniversary and kissing him and told him I have a surprise planned for later. He called me when he should have already been home stating that he picked up an extra load and was excited about how much extra the pay was going to be. We used the extra pay from this and from other extra loads he picked up that coincidentally coincided with special occasions and holidays to go to Hawaii. It wasn't until I stopped planning something for him for Father's Day that he started making an effort on getting gifts ahead of time and remembering special occasions. When my husband got home from being on the road he took my son and I to eat at a steakhouse and handed each of us a gift bag. Inside were brand new AirPods. At first my son was confused because he didn't have an iPhone. Then came the second surprise, that after we finished eating we were heading to AT&T to get both us new phones. I haven't really spoken to his daughter but was told that her failing classes and sneaking out has caused a strain on her relationship with her mother. I am not looking for pity or sympathy and I am not a doormat and my husband is not a heartless monster. I am in a much better frame of mind now than I was then. Thank you for taking the time to hear me. Top comments. Commenter 1. So after all that, does the thieving little madam still have the purse? Because if so, what lesson has she learnt? Nothing, nada. Commenter 2. I'd have taken scissors to it. There is no way she would still have it. Commenter 3. Did he get you another purse? IDK about his makeup gift. Was that really what you wanted? Commenter 4. Sorry, but we have to agree to disagree. You are a doormat and until that changes you will ever be a doormat. Commenter 5. So basically she's a thief, and you're all enabling her. Editor's note, marking this as inconclusive as the account is now deleted. We won't know any further updates regarding the stepdaughter and the purse. Stories number 3. My husband's getting drinks with a coworker and I'm terrified. My husband, 35M, and I, 34F, have been together for 9 years, married for 5. He was showing me a video on his phone the other day and a text came through from a female name I didn't recognize. I asked who it was and he said she's a colleague from a company that his company works closely with. He has text previews turned off so I couldn't actually see what was said but my suspicions were raised. I know it's wrong but when he was in the shower that evening I looked through his phone to see who this girl is and why she's texting him. I found out that they've been getting coffee and lunch during the workday, sometimes to talk about work, sometimes not. Prior to last week, it was maybe once a month communications to plan these, but then she joined a board that he's on last week. So they had a board meeting and then seemed to go out as a group for drinks after until about 11. I did know that he was out with his colleagues during this time and wasn't concerned. What is concerning is that he texted her that night making sure she got home safe and telling her how much fun he had but that he'd been hoping to have more opportunities to talk with her instead of everyone else. The next morning, he texted her good morning and asking her to drinks one-on-one next week. She agreed and he said he couldn't wait. Of course I looked her up and she's a very beautiful woman, probably in her mid-20s. I asked again later who she was and what their connection was. He reiterated that she's a colleague and is helping get him connected with exciting opportunities in her organization. I know he's been really focused on networking and she has a lot of high-up community connections that it looks like she's introduced him to. He's also a friendly guy who likes to be involved, through board work and professional groups. I don't want to go scorched earth and accuse him of anything inappropriate since my insecurity has been a major issue we've had to work through in the past, but I'm terrified he's going to cheat on me. Would this send off alarm bells for you, and how would you respond without accusing him and ruining the marriage? Update. My husband's getting drinks with his coworker and I'm terrified. Well, you were all correct. I continued to monitor his texts without saying anything and he continued to be flirty, texting her good morning, telling her how he couldn't wait to see her, and how happy he was to hear from her throughout the day. They did go out for dinner and drinks the other night. It sounds like it must have gone well, since they're now having flat-out conversations to set the framework for their affair. They've discussed that they want to keep things private and out of work, that she doesn't like that he's married, that they both have mutual feelings and are going to continue and are on the same page about everything, and that she initially didn't want to start this but has developed feelings she can't ignore. While my husband told her that he's always had these feelings and couldn't resist her. Not sure if anything physical happened, but I'm assuming it did. I thought I'd be heartbroken, but now I'm just furious. I'm getting my affairs in order to confront him and end the marriage. Thanks for all the feedback and advice. Stories number 4. Wife, F28, and I, M27, ran into her ex at the mall and it sent me for a loop. Hi all, never done anything like this before. New account because I don't know where this is going, if it's even going anywhere. My wife and friends know my Reddit username. Maybe I'm overthinking, maybe not. But something about this past weekend is just sitting weird with me and I don't know if I should trust my gut or if I'm just getting in my own head. So for some context, my wife Carla and I have been together for 4 years, married for 5 months. We have a solid relationship, no real trust issues or anything like that. She's an amazing person and I love her endlessly. Something about her that's important to this situation is she's always been one of those people who holds grudges forever. Like she's still mad about a girl stealing her seat in 9th grade. If you cross her, she holds it against you forever. I think that's what makes this whole thing feel off. We were out shopping on Saturday at a mall about an hour from home. At this point the day was winding down and we were grabbing a bite to eat in the food court. And that's when we ran into Chris. Now, Chris is the ex she was with from 16 to 24. He's the only ex she ever really talks about, and every time she has it's been something negative. They fought a lot, they had a messy breakup, they were toxic, they cheated on each other, the whole 9 yards. We've lived in the same city as him our whole relationship, and other than a brief blip while dating, we've never once bumped into him. But we run into him an hour away from home on a random day at the mall. And her reaction just sent me for a loop. I was mid-sentence when I saw her eyes just lock onto something behind me and immediately she lights up. Big smile. Before I even turn to see who it is, she's already standing up to greet him, just beaming. They hug, and not just some quick, oh hey, hug. Like it felt like it was a, so amazing to finally see you again hug. And then suddenly, I'm just standing there, completely shut out of the conversation while they start catching up. I didn't even know who he was. I haven't seen him in years and I had to piece it together as they chatted. I thought she'd introduce me, but nope. I'm just standing there while she's laughing, fully engaged with him, even some physical touching. T1 point, she shoved his arm playfully. I'm not a jealous person and I honestly have zero problem with her being friends with whomever she chooses. But my impression of her relationship with him was different than what I was seeing. I figured I was overreacting or reading too much into it, but I still felt a bit weird, like a third wheel if I'm being honest, so I just tried to hint that it was time to go by picking up our trays and making it clear I was ready. Neither of them noticed. So I walked off, tossed the trays, came back. Still talking. They finally wrap it up after a few more minutes and they hugged again and then he was off. And then without a single word about it she just looks at me and goes, okay, let's stop at Lululemon and Indigo before we head out. Like nothing happened. I kept waiting for her to bring him up, say something about how weird it was, or at least acknowledge him or their conversation in some way, but she just acted like it was nothing. We shopped for another 45 minutes like nothing happened. Once we got in the car I waited to see if she'd bring it up. She didn't. Small talk died off a few minutes after we got on the highway, and she was just glued to her phone. So I asked who she's texting. She says the group chat, that's her 3 best friends Cheyenne, Darcy, and Julia. I said, what's the topic of conversation? She smiled and said, I'm telling them how crazy it is that I ran into Chris. I just say, yeah, that was pretty wild. She agrees and says, insane. What are the chances? And then she just kept texting. I kind of expected that to kick off our conversation about it, but it didn't. That night at home, after she'd been on her phone the majority of the night with the girls still chatting about it, I decided to bring it up. Told her I felt like a bit of a third wheel when Chris showed up since she didn't introduce me. Felt like I wasn't even there because she didn't introduce me. She lightheartedly said, "Oh, he knows who you are." Then gave me a quick peck on the cheek. Now I didn't exactly handle this great. I brought it up in a very lighthearted and non-serious tone. That's just how I deal with conflict, so it's 100% on me for not communicating where my head was at, and I can't fault her for being so nonchalant about it. I left it there for the night and thought I'd take another stab at it the next day once I'd had some time to process. But it's been days and I still just feel really confused about this whole thing. I'm really struggling trying to process how I'm feeling about it all and judging if I even have a right to feel upset. Never run into an ex before, so this is new territory. So I'm making my first Reddit post. Honestly, not even sure if this is the best sub for this. If you think this belongs elsewhere, LMK. TLDR, wife and I ran into her ex-boyfriend at the mall. She was very friendly with him and the whole interaction just felt weird. My wife doesn't seem to think it's anything worth talking about. I'm overprocessing to the nth degree. Need advice. Stories number 5. My boyfriend's mother hates me, and I don't know what I've done. My boyfriend's mom seems to hate me, and it's been really hard to deal with. I'm 22, and my boyfriend is 26. We've been together for 9 months, and I moved into his apartment after 3 months of dating. His parents live in a different house, just 30 minutes away from his apartment. His mom visits often, but whenever she does, she completely ignores me or barely talks to me. I've tried to be nice and friendly, but she only gives me one-word answers or acts cold. Today, I made spaghetti from scratch, and my boyfriend loved it. Even his dad said it was good, but his mom refused to eat. When they asked her to at least try it, she got angry. I told them it's fine and not to force her, but it still hurt. She also acts like the apartment is hers, going through every room, including our closet and drawers. I know she's his mom, but I wish she would respect our privacy. She also complains that I spend too much of my boyfriend's money on dresses and heels, which isn't true because I pay for my own things. When I bring up how she treats me to my boyfriend, he just brushes it off, saying, "Don't mind her, she's always like that." When I asked him, "Did your mom treat your ex the same way?" he says he doesn't want to talk about his past relationships. My boyfriend talks a lot about having kids with me, but I don't think I can handle being a part of this family. I'm afraid that if we have a baby, his mother will treat our child badly too. Should I end things with him? He's a really good, funny, and gentle guy, but his mom is a big problem. Comments. Commenter 1. The biggest problem here is that your boyfriend won't stand up for you and tell his mom to treat you with respect. Also, does he stand up for you when she claims that you're spending all his money even though it's not true? Also, he needs to tell her to stop snooping around your house. Reply. He does tell his mom sometimes not to speak to me that way, but then she stops talking to him, and he feels like he has to make her happy again. Whenever she opens our closet and sees my dresses and skirts, she complains that I spend a lot of her son's money. When I tell her that I bought those clothes myself and that some were from promotions, she just rolls her eyes. Commenter 2. That pretty much means he's willing to allow his mother to belittle you just so he can keep the peace. Commenter 3. Well, to be frank, this relationship is doomed. He doesn't care about you enough to stand up to you. And even if you threaten to break up and then he decides to actually address the issue, it doesn't matter. Because why did he wait for an ultimatum? Why did he even wait until you brought it up, instead of being proactive? He should have stopped his mother when he saw her acting this way. His mother going to her adult son's apartment while he's in a relationship and snooping is not normal. Her being this cold towards you also isn't normal. Maybe she's a boy mom and you need to leave ASAP. Just because she being disrespectful is normal, doesn't mean you need to accept being disrespected. And bringing up having kids when you've only been together for 9 months is wild. And if you're going to say the relationship is great otherwise, I can guarantee you it is not. He's a mama's boy, he will also choose her instead of you. You like him, maybe will even grow to love him. But he will never match energy with you. Update. So, like many of you suggested, I searched up enmeshment and watched a few YouTube videos some of you DM me about mommy's boys. It was eye-opening and disgusting. I can't imagine a future where his mother constantly intervenes in our lives. Like some of you pointed out, there's even a chance she could turn my future children against me if things stay the same. I want my kids to grow up in a happy, healthy environment. After reading hundreds of your responses, I decided to talk to my boyfriend. I showed him this post, like a few of you suggested, and let him read the comments. He only got through 1 or 2 before getting defensive and angry. He said I was being too overdramatic and insisted his mom wasn't doing anything wrong. He even said she only comes over because she cares about him and even accused me of being jealous because my parents aren't as involved in my life as his mom is in his. I got upset and told him, just because she's your mom doesn't mean she can come into our home, open our closets and drawers, and invade our privacy. How would you feel if I brought my parents here and let them go through your laptop, phone, and closet? He got even more irritated and accused me of intentionally trying to piss him off. Then he sarcastically told me to go ahead and bring my family over to do the same thing. I also brought up how his mom constantly judges my clothes and accuses me of spending his money, even though I pay for my own things. I said, "You don't even bother to defend me or correct her," he said. "These aren't serious issue, you're just making them into a big deal because you want to fight with me. Are you on your period or something?" I got mad and said, "Are you serious right now? Just because I'm upset about your mom's behavior, you're assuming I'm on my period? Is that really how little you think of me?" He laughed like a fake laugh and said, "Calm down, I'll make you your favorite Missy Carbora." He was so irritating and I told him, "I wonder what bad things your mom says about me to other people. Who knows, maybe you even join in with her to mock me, just because I don't understand your language." He's Italian. He didn't even respond and just walked into the kitchen. I followed him and said, "You don't even care to see my side of things. If your mom doesn't change her behavior, I'm breaking up with you. I deserve better than this, and I can find another man who's much better than you." That's when he stopped and came to me and grabbed my arm and told me to stop talking about breaking up. He said he loves me too much to let me go and even said his mother loves me too, but she's not showing it, which honestly felt like a joke considering how she's treated me. He promised to talk to his mom, set boundaries, and make sure she respects me moving forward. He also said he wouldn't allow her to go through our room again. For now, I'm staying with him, but if he doesn't follow through, I'll seriously end things. Edit, I've been getting bombarded with DMs saying I'm making a mistake and that I'm foolish for staying, so I just want to say sorry. When he said, he loves me too much to let me go, and he even said other sweet words to me and kissed me, I genuinely thought he meant it in a loving way and didn't see it as a red flag. But after reading all of your responses, I realize now that I was blind to it. I'll be leaving him when he goes to work. Comments. Commenter 1. I second, dip now. Commenter 2. Yeah, I mean, there's red flags all over the place, without even bringing in the mom. He grabbed her arm. Told her not to talk about breaking up. Told her he loves her too much to let her go. That on top of the gaslighting, I'll go as far and say OP is already in an abusive relationship and needs to get out of there. Commenter 3. Dismissed her emotions and concerns with, "Are you on your period?" He doesn't even respect op. Commenter 4. Lady, he grabbed your arm. I'm saying this as a man. Grab your shit and leave. Do not announce shit until you are out. Commenter 5. The whole, "he loves her too much to let her go," is what got me. That's terrifying. Reply, at that moment when he said that, I thought he really did love me and didn't see it as a red flag. But now, reading all of your responses saying it's a red flag and terrifying, it's making me realize how stupid I was. Commenter 6. My ex told me this statement, and when I did leave, he beat me so badly I miscarried. Be gone before he comes home, text him you're done, then block him, his mom and his friend's family. And never go back. New update. After my last post, I didn't come online. I usually delete this app after posting and re-download it later. While I was still with him, he didn't seem to come across my posts circulating online, at least not in front of me. Maybe he saw them, maybe he didn't. It doesn't matter now. I won't go into full details about what happened between me, him, and his mother. He did what he promised and talked to his mother, but it didn't go well. And yes, things got worse between him and me to the point where our neighbor had to come and stop him. I won't explain further. After seeing people repost my story online without my consent, with comments calling it fake, and throwing insults like gold digger and whore, I realized there's no point in explaining. No matter what I say, some people will still call it fake. All that matters is, I left. On Wednesday, while he was at work, I took my flight, packed what I could, and left. I blocked him everywhere and only left a breakup letter behind. I couldn't take all my clothes, just important documents. On Saturday, the friend who first introduced us called me. She told me he was furious and demanding she give him my parents' home address and my new location. She didn't tell him anything because she knew something was wrong. Instead, she called me first, and I told her everything. She told me to stay safe and warned me that he feels betrayed and is extremely angry. She also said he might come looking for me here. Right now, I'm staying at my friend's house for some weeks, but I'm seriously considering leaving the country to put more distance between us. Comments. Commenter 1. Document, and document much as you can. Ask for screenshots from your friend because I feel you're in danger ATM. So I hope you continue to stay safe and glad you got out when you could. Commenter 2. I'm sorry all of this happened to you and that some internet strangers use their anonymity to be assholes. This internet stranger is proud of you for getting out and sends virtual hugs. It's not easy to escape an abusive relationship. Stories number 6. Friend having wedding day before mine and kept relationship hidden for a whole year. What do I do? So I am getting married in a few weeks. About a month ago, one of my best friends who I've known since college and have kept in regular contact with dropped the bomb that she was getting married. I didn't even know she was seeing anyone. She then drops the bomb that she's marrying a guy in our friend group and that her wedding is going to have to be the day before mine because her father-in-law can't get time off work at any other time that month, and essentially gave a few other half-assed reasons about why other weekends weren't possible. One weekend will be a few days before her period starts so she'll be bloated, the other she's on her period, the other is Valentine's weekend and that's cringy, the other is too close to Ramadan so she can't go on her honeymoon straight away. Some backstory about the person she is marrying: she is someone that we always thought she had a thing but she'd always deny it and say she saw him like a brother. We used to argue a bit over her prioritizing him over me back in college, especially because this guy and I didn't really get on much and her and I were so close. Me and her had brunch plans once and she spent the whole time texting him. After graduating though, I feel like we all matured and put differences behind us to the point where her husband-to-be was actually invited to my wedding as my friend. My knee-jerk reaction to her telling me she was engaged was crying tears of joy for her. I truly was happy for her. But when I went home to think about it, I felt really icky. All year since I've been wedding planning, she's been asking me really specific questions about my planning process. She complained to me that as my best friend she didn't feel involved enough in my planning process and said she wanted to come dress shopping with me, which I invited her to because of her expressing this. But then for her to turn around and tell me that she's been dating this guy on and off for a year whilst also keeping it secret makes her feeling left out of my stuff come across as so hypocritical. And then there's the question of why the rush since she's known him a decade, and why specifically my wedding weekend when I sent out my save the dates back in March so she's had so much time to plan and leave some time in between. It's not about me not having all the attention on me, it's just how can she expect me to be fully present at her wedding, and how selfish she must be to expect me to have to fit her into an already stressful weekend for me. When I told her this she doubled down on that weekend being the only one available and that she specifically chose that one because she knew I'd be available since I'd booked a few days off from work before the wedding and that she needed me at her wedding. She said I would embarrass her around her future in-laws since she made such a point of needing to pick a date that I could attend, even though I had no clue she was seeing him nor did she check if the day was a good fit for me. I then also expressed how upset I was that she kept the relationship hidden from me, to which she said she thought I'd cut her off because of my history not getting on with this guy. Again, we all moved past that stuff years ago and are a far cry from the kids we were when we all met back in freshman year. When I told her I didn't think I could make her wedding, she was so upset she cried and said she never thought I'd do that to her and skip her wedding. She's been telling other friends in the friend group that I'm coming to the wedding when they've asked if that date is doable for me. We haven't spoken since my conversation about how upset with her I was a month ago. I'm not trying to be a bridezilla and I know people are entitled to be private. My issue is that she should have extended that privacy with me and not asked so many questions about my life knowing she was being so tight-lipped with hers. This is where I now need advice. I feel so bitter and like the whole friendship was a lie. I can't make it to her wedding, and honestly having her at mine feels disingenuous. She has been telling friends she is still coming to mine. Is it rude for me to not go to her wedding? Should I go to her wedding since this is a decade-long friendship? Part of me wants to disinvite her and her husband to be from my wedding because of the lies. Is that rude? Is there a polite way to disinvite someone from your wedding without coming across like an absolute villain? Thank you for reading up to here if you have. TLDR, best friend having wedding day before mine after keeping relationship with mutual friend hidden for a whole year. Edit, I'm Middle Eastern so traditionally we don't have bridesmaids or a rehearsal dinner. Also fixed some wording plus added some more detail. Sum of comments. Commenter, when did this friend send out wedding invitations that you just found out and she's expecting you to attend? Sounds very last minute on her part. Reply, so from what I've heard from the grapevine she's only just found a venue and no invitations have gone out yet. She's been insisting that officially the engagement and knowing they were getting married in November, which is why nothing had been booked. It all just seems so wishy-washy to me. Commenter, I just have to add a totally instant gut reaction to this situation. Your friend was siphoning off all of your wedding planning to make hers easier. She deliberately planned the day before yours to cover that fact up. Hers is the earlier wedding, therefore you copied her, in her mind anyway. I am very sorry you are going through this, but this is not a friend. Grieve the loss of what you thought you had and move on with your life. No way should you bother to attend her wedding. She knows it isn't possible for you to go the day before your own wedding. She planned that, but I would formally revoke her invitation to your wedding. Best of luck to you. Hugs from an internet nana. Reply, that's what I'm thinking too. Before all of this she kept on saying how easy wedding planning seemed to be going for me. It's not been easy at all, I'm just good at hiding it and am very organized, and how I'd thought of things she would have never even known was a thing. In terms of disinviting and the cultural impact, it's very split down the middle with opinions. So I'm really torn. Thank you for the hugs, I really appreciate it. This has really helped me feel like I'm not being unreasonable or a bridezilla. Commenter, quite simply she is a terrible friend. Here's the gist of what you wrote. You guys are allegedly close, yet she didn't tell you about her year-long relationship. She's chosen to inconvenience you in your own wedding weekend, assumed you'd be available the day before your own wedding, after she hid her relationship from you. She's lying to everyone about you attending her wedding. She hasn't shared any details about her own wedding despite making you feel guilty about not including her in your own wedding planning. You never even really liked her husband. If she thought you'd cut her off for dating this man, why would she think you'd be okay not cutting her off for marrying him? She seems the kind of friend who wants to know all of your business without sharing anything from her own life. Honestly, not the kind of company you'd want to keep. Reply, heavy on the last point. I have so many friends who are private people and don't speak on many things until they're set in stone, but at the same time they follow a don't ask don't tell policy, so it doesn't bother me at all. And I completely agree about the worry of me cutting her off. I said this to her and she really didn't have anything to say in response. I was over all of that stuff anyway. I invited him to the wedding because I'd gotten over my dislike of him these last few years, but apparently she has selective memory and only wants to believe the things that suit her narrative. How would she know you got over your dislike of her fiancé? Reply, she should have known I moved past it because we all hang out as a group a few times a year, and her husband to be received an invite to my wedding. My issue is her getting upset with me for not being involved in my wedding planning, which comes across as hypocritical. But you're right, I've learned I should be more tight-lipped about certain things now, I guess. Commenter, so she told your friends about the wedding weeks ago? She's been telling other friends in the friend group that I'm coming to the wedding when they've asked if that date is doable for me. How long did she invite them? No one mentioned it to you. It is unreasonable for anyone to expect you to attend a wedding the day before yours, especially with only a few weeks' notice. Reply, she told me first and then the rest of the friends in the days after. And so far everyone has only received verbal invitations. Commenter, what kind of wedding is she planning? Is this like a courthouse wedding in the late morning followed by a nice lunch or a full-on catered event? The request is certainly presumptuous of her, so I'm just trying to understand all the details. Reply, she's planning on having her religious ceremony and reception on the same day, so it will have the same time frame as a Western and be typically an all-day thing, especially if you consider pictures between the ceremony and the reception. Is this really happening? Did anyone confirm? Friends have confirmed with the groom, the wedding is definitely happening. Is she pregnant? Definitely don't think she's pregnant. I know she's quite religious, but of course that doesn't really mean it's not a possibility. One last thought from OOP. Trust me, there are so many holes that I'm curious about too in her story, and a lot else that I didn't put in myself. In terms of how busy I'll be, the day before OOP's wedding, I'll be putting together my wedding favors with the girls in the family in the days leading up to the wedding. We'll be doing airport runs up to the day before, as a lot family will be traveling in, some from 20+ hours away, and we live close to 3 major airports, so it's all hands on deck. And then honestly, I was hoping I'd get a nice early night in to relax for once because I've had such a busy year. I'll be combining my henna event with the reception on the day of the wedding because I've already had 2 events and have a Western-style bridal shower the weekend before, so wanted to cut down on events. Update post. A few people in the original post were asking about rehearsal dinners and all of that stuff. I'm Middle Eastern and we don't really do that in our culture. Some people also said I needed to get over myself and that I don't own the whole weekend, which is true, I don't. My issue was the lying and also the expectation of me to drive a total of 5 hours, 2.5 hours there and back, the day before my wedding, and to attend another when I had so many things to finalize. I also just needed to vent. Being lied to and having something that felt so calculated happen in what I thought was one of my closest friendships is strange. Oh, and I don't think it was a shotgun wedding, which a lot of people were suggesting. Anyway, I had my wedding, it was perfect and I wouldn't change a thing. I didn't go to her wedding, I genuinely didn't have the time. I did see some posted videos of her wedding. She didn't copy mine, which a lot of people were worried about considering she had been asking me about all of my prep. I'll give her her flowers though, her wedding was gorgeous, but definitely not a 2-month planned wedding like she was making out it was to me. In the end, she ended up coming to my wedding about 3 hours late. I was too busy being in my own newly married bubble to notice her or anything, but I did get feedback from people who were sat at her table. Like people said she would in my original post, she spent the whole time talking about her wedding. In our culture, the bride receives a heavy piece of gold jewelry at her wedding. She made a show of having her new husband take her piece of jewelry out of her bag and putting it on her at the table just after my husband and I, feels so nice saying that, did our outfit change. She was also showing off other pieces of jewelry she received, making a point to emphasize that she received real sapphires and real diamonds. Her and her husband also spent the whole time texting each other, which means they were probably saying not very nice things that they didn't want our mutual friends overhearing, and she frequently would turn to him and say, "Don't worry, we're leaving soon." They were also packing on the PDA with neck kisses. She also then cried to my mum and brother about how she doesn't understand why I've not been talking to her, and how I've been so cold to her. This wasn't true. I'd only told her how much her actions and lies had hurt me, and to be honest, she was the one who didn't respond to my last message. My mum, being the classic mum she is, brought her to me and tried to make us hug it out. We have this very awkward exchange caught on camera. My mum did tell my friend that she shouldn't have lied to me for a whole year though, so it's nice to know she had my back even if she pulled a typical mum move trying to make everyone happy. Our mutual friends are all on my side. No one really thinks she's in the right. Most of them didn't go to her wedding. With the invites being so last minute and her wedding being on a weekday, a lot of people couldn't get the time off or childcare. No one else knew about the wedding, which is crazy. I do believe that her truth is that she doesn't think she's done anything wrong, and she really does think that she considered me and my situation in her wedding planning. Unfortunately, I think it's one of those friendships where we no longer really align, and I have taken a step back and distanced myself from her. I do appreciate that she came to my wedding, however I think she did it to make a point more than out of the goodness of her heart and respect for our friendship, considering what she pulled. Edited to add more information that some people were asking. Stories number 7. Aita for refusing to babysit my sister's kids for several weeks while she is on a baby moon with her boyfriend. Alt account because my family and friends know my main one. My 28F sister Jamie, 38F, has 3 kids, Melanie, 11F, Sarah, 8F, and Carl, 5M, with her ex-husband, whom she divorced 6 months ago due to her cheating, with her current boyfriend, Daniel, 62M. Jamie's kids are absolute brats, and last time they came over, 3 years ago, Melanie smashed a vase and Sarah scribbled on my Uggs with permanent marker. This was when I decided to become child-free. I also decided to distance myself from them, though I do speak to them and we do have occasional family dinners at my aunt's place. Anyways, Jamie and Daniel are expecting a child, a boy, and they decided to go on a baby moon, which will happen in a week, and they are not very wealthy. Jamie spent nearly all of her money on the trip, and Daniel will work double shifts till then and after the baby moon to support both of them, so they did not hire a babysitter. Yesterday, Jamie unexpectedly called me and asked if I could babysit her kids. I said no, as I have been getting a degree online, and I have to fly to where my university is for my graduation ceremony. At first, she tried to persuade me, saying her kids are absolute darlings and I won't even notice they are there. I said that my answer was still the same, and then she went off in a rant and called me all kinds of shit, like that I'm a heartless bitch who can't have a little compassion for her poor, pregnant sister. I told her that if she wants somebody to work for her for free, she can actually get a job and not sleep with men who are literally old enough to be her father in the hopes that they are rich. She hung up, and is now bombarding me with texts begging me to reconsider. I am beginning to feel a bit guilty. Should I have been nicer to Jamie? Ida. Update, Aita for refusing to babysit my sister's kids for several weeks while she is on a baby moon with her boyfriend. Last night, Jamie texted me. She seemed upset. Apparently, she had to cancel her baby moon because I rudely denied the amazing opportunity to watch her kids. However, not everything from the canceled trip was fully refunded, so she demanded that I compensate with the rest, and also pay for a fully funded trip to Disney for her, Daniel, and the brats. She also sent me links to several things, such as a pack of Japanese, expensive diapers, baby clothes, baby shoes, what baby needs mini Asics that cost a bomb, and other stuff, totaling about $500. I didn't text back, and blocked her. Later, Daniel called me. I didn't pick up. At about midnight, Jamie showed up at my house and dropped Melanie, her 11-year-old off. Now I'm conflicted. Should I call the police and get Jamie in trouble, and possibly get Melanie in trouble with Jamie, or should I go to her house and sort this out myself? I really hope I don't have to make any more updates. Stories number 8. My 32F boyfriend, 35M, got in an accident in my car, didn't tell me, and now refuses to do anything about it. Throw away because this shit is embarrassing AF. I have been with my 32F boyfriend, 35M, for a little over 3 years. Every once in a while I will let him drive my car when his is low on gas or if he has the good parking spot and doesn't want to move, etc. etc. A couple weeks ago I get a call from my insurance company letting me know they need a statement about the accident. What? After a solid 45 minutes of adamantly proclaiming this lady was full of shit and that there was no accident, the insurance rep said, well, we have a report that boyfriend's name was in an accident in blah blah parking lot on this date, claiming he was driving his girlfriend's car. Oh, I call my boyfriend, he denies up and down that there was no accident. I explain the call I received and he replies with, oh yeah, I forgot about that. Apparently he had been dodging calls for over a month and did not tell me any of this was going on. There was no damage to my car, so there was no reason for me to think anything had happened. So, yesterday I was trying to work out with the insurance company details, get him to make a statement, and it's impossible. He stopped responding to my texts about the situation, so I call him. He clears it. I call him again. He clears it. He texts me, I am with my parents. Okay, but this is a serious situation and I need to speak with you about it, can you please answer? I don't want to fight with you in front of my parents. This isn't a fight, I need details about the accident from you. He won't take my call, so, I sent him kind of a shitty text, something along the lines of, you can't even show me the respect to take my call about something serious? This isn't even a real relationship to you. Silence. Finally, after about 2 hours of radio silence, and me very very upset, I call again. He says, I don't have the energy to do this with you right now. I'm painting. I don't want to talk. I say, what about my feelings? What about me? He says, scoff, what about you, and hangs up. I haven't heard from him since. I know he is waiting for me to break down and contact, as that has historically been the case. I need some help drafting my response to this situation. I am frozen in shock and pain and am at a loss on what the next step is. Updated is 12:15 p.m. my time, and still not a word from this fool. He gives no fucks. I am done. Second update, so he contacted. The text I just got was, we have the kind of love that was forged in adventure, and sealed in the bedroom, what? No mention of the accident or the fight. How do I even respond to this? Relevant comments. Commenter 1, he's 35. Seriously? Dump his ass. He got into an accident in your CR, didn't tell you, denies it, acts like he forgot, and then won't speak you about it. Wow, I can't even express how fast I'd be out of that relationship. Commenter 2, okay, but like the last message he sent her, we have the type of love that's forged in adventure and sealed in the bedroom, is a quote from the Netflix show Disenchantment. Reply, IT wasn't even an original lame-ass weak-ass line. Oh hell no. Commenter 3, is your name Gwen? Commenter 4, do you know the extent of the damage on the other car? Or a possible contact? Maybe directly speak to the owner of the other vehicle. Reply, from what my insurance says, the lady just wants her deductible paid out, $500, to get her bumper fixed. Dumb BF says that it was barely a scratch, so that seems like a lot of money. I like the idea of talking to the chick directly. Top comments. Commenter 1, are you absolutely positive that he isn't actually 3 children in a trench coat? Reply, I'm crying laughing at this. Update, 35M, crash band I child claims I was merely setting a fire for attention. You guys? I can't. I was straight up blown away by the support, suggestion, and compassion I was shown by total strangers. Some of y'all had me dying laughing in one of the shittiest times of my adult life. A very kind gentleman from Scotland even offered to pay for my daughter too and I to go out to a nice meal together because he noticed in the thread that I mentioned I was a single mom. Reddit rules, so. I know most of you said ghost him, but I just couldn't. While undoubtedly that is what he deserved, I needed to hear from his perspective why he thought any of this was okay before I could close the door. And honestly, I am glad I did because it solidified for me that this relationship was an excellent learning experience, that I had done my learning, and it was time to move the fuck on. His avoidance of the situation was explained by his thinking it wasn't that big of a deal. He said that he didn't understand why this lady was making such a big fuss about her bumper, and that I was unreasonably upset about it and he didn't want to talk about it until I had calmed down. Oh. Hell. No, I kept it together until I got his side of the story. According to him, they were both backing out of their parking spots and smacked into each other. He was all the way out of his spot, she was halfway out of hers when bang. I literally dialed the phone and SAT with him while he called the insurance rep and gave his statement. He was found at fault due to his being all the way out of the spot. I am not 100% sure what this means for me, my policy, or my pocket yet. As far as the relationship, done. When he came over to talk I had all his things packed up. I tried to explain how hurt and disappointed I was about his actions, and told that I could no longer trust him because of how terribly he handled this situation. He said, I shit you not, oh, please. You just set a fire and expected me to come to your rescue and put it out, and when I didn't you threw a fit. I'm sorry. I just didn't have the energy to put out your fire. This is your goddamn fire set by your shitty actions and fueled by your avoidance. I burst into tears, handed him his bag, and said I needed him to leave. Now, I told him anything of mine left at his place he can throw away, or leave there until his next victim or mother comes and cleans it for him. Speaking of his mother, I did listen to you and craft a very detailed email to her with him CC'd. I explained what happened, and then asked her for his driver's license number and policy name and ID number just in case it's needed. Her response was, I am very sorry that you are having to deal with all this, but I don't see how this is our problem if it was your car. I feel like this whole family are a bunch of lizard people sent to Earth to make me question my reality. Anyway. Single at 32 again. Woot. I am sad as fuck, but trying to focus on the plus side as someone said, cutting a bunch of dead's weight. Thanks again for all the love and laughs. Oh, and yes, once it is determined how much this is going to affect my rates and my pocket, I will be taking his cartoon quoting ass to small claims court. I have already spoken to my attorney about it. Much love, Pixie. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. I don't see how this is our problem if it was your car. Well, we found where he gets it from. Reply. Seriously. Here's the thing, if it had been me in his car, you best believe his fam would expect me to pay for any damages. And they have stupid money. Commenter 2. Holly shitballs. This is crazy. And his mom, I guess you don't have to wonder how he ended up like this. Best of luck to you, and in the immortal words of my late father, better alone than with an asshole. Reply. Thank you. Yeah, his mom never really was my biggest fan, but I didn't expect a total shirk of responsibility here. JFC. Commenter 3. That sucks. I mean, it's baffling that he can't just own up to a fender bender. They're pretty common and, while a small hassle, ultimately not a big deal. On the plus side, you've obviously dodged a huge bullet. Reply. On the real. Something that would have taken up 30 minutes of my life has now ended a relationship and resulted in a lawsuit because this MFer can't face reality. Commenter 4. Honestly, you sound pretty badass, and your ex-boyfriend sounds like a 12-year-old child. Good riddance. Reply. I think I'm alright. My kid adores me, my dog thinks I'm cool, and Reddit has been pretty good to me the past couple days. I can't be a total wank, right? Thanks. Last I saw Crash Bandychild, he was carrying a duffel bag full of cologne bottles and gym clothes back to his car. Like a Jersey Shore edition reject. Stories number 9. I was on a date last night, I was complimenting him about his personality, basically cute and stuff. He said, no one has ever said that to me before, I feel so sad for men now, is it really that bad? Edit. I'm literally just checking this post after finishing work, I'm really terribly sorry to all men out there. You absolutely deserve random appreciation for your personality traits or dressing sense or your physical features. I will try my best to be appreciative of you in every conversation I will have from now on, even though I always did that regardless of whom I was talking to. You do really matter as a soul in at least one person's life around you, trust me. Stories number 10. I just had a realization that my husband is not taking care of me at all. I'm 30 and he's 33. We've been married for 2 years and have a toddler together. So what happened today is I went to the dentist and I need to get braces, but I don't have my own money cause I'm a som, I want to work but my husband doesn't, my parents are paying for them as a birthday gift. After the dentist appointment I was talking to my mom and she told me that later after the braces I will fix my eyesight too cause I'm basically blind without glasses. When she told me that they will pay for the eye surgery too, something clicked in my head and I've never had a feeling like this before. I realized that my parents are the ones taking care of me instead of my husband, who said that he's responsible for me cause I don't work and taking care of our child. So I started going back with memories and I'm still shocked. When I gave birth I had the most intense back pain and I could barely get out of bed. Every time I asked my husband to give me a massage for a bit so the pain wouldn't be so bad, he refused, saying I'm tired, I can't. This went for almost 2 weeks and then I asked my mom to give me a massage and she would come at our place just so she could help me. She even bought a massager so my husband could give me massages easier, but still he refused to do anything. Even though he knows that I have no money, he still gives me only about $20 for groceries a week. Groceries are far more than that and I still use my parents' money for food for us. He complains how he doesn't have money and his salary is late every month, but somehow he always has money for expensive toys for our child. He doesn't do anything around the house, just leave a mess behind him, and I feel like his maid. There are so many other situations where my parents were the ones taking care of me and helping me, but this today was an eye-opener. I don't know if the anger in me is taking right now or what I'm feeling is justified. Stories number 11. My brother, 15M, has been lying about my 25M life to my conservative, estranged parents, made fake Instagram, help. Okay, I'll try to make this quick, but there's a lot and I'm freaking the fuck out. I grew up a Jehovah's Witness. If you don't know, JW are extremely conservative to an insane degree. I wasn't allowed to read Harry Potter, if that makes sense. And my parents were not lax or exceptions for my children type. Extremely devout people. And I'm gay. When I was 16 I was outed horribly by my sister who found some gay porn that I didn't delete from my computer history. My family, of course, flipped out and demanded I either seek conversion therapy or get out. Luckily for me, my aunt had also defected from the church, so I was able to move in with her, far away. My parents and sister immediately wanted nothing to do with me. But my brother was 6. He was too young to really grasp what was going on, and had no phone or social media or anything, so I couldn't contact him. I honestly just assumed he drank the same end as Nye Kool-Aid and never sought him out. Earlier this year, I got a message from him on Facebook. It was a gigantic apology for not saying goodbye properly, and that he really wanted me back in his life. Clicking through his profile, I didn't see any JW proselytizing like my sisters, just pics of him and his friends being normal teens. I was beyond happy. I messaged him back, we FaceTimed, cried, he caught me up a little in his life and I caught him up a little in mine. And from there we started texting regularly. I am very, very happy about all this. But he was still living under my parents' roof, and was still heavy in JW culture. I was nervous about this. He always reaffirmed that he only called texted when he wasn't in the house, or around other JW, and reaffirmed that he thought the church was awful. Last week something weird happened. I got an email from my mother. It was a picture from a recent Dells trip she had taken with my family and another JW family. Years of no contact, then this. What the fuck? I spent days talking this out with my friends before it occurred to me that my brother might have something to do with this. I brought up the email to my brother when I called him yesterday, barely hinting at my suspicions at all, and he unloaded. He had been lying to my parents. He said that I contacted him apologizing and was desperate to get back in contact with the witnesses again, but was too ashamed. But the kicker is he made a fake Instagram to show them. He plucked all the G-rated pictures from my various social medias and filled it in with captions about how devout I am, how happy I am to have refound God's light, etc. He had taken pictures of me and my best friend, Julie, and added captions like, the love of my life, my bride-to-be, etc. like holy shit. He seemed already remorseful of this ploy but that he was in too deep to stop now. Now, he didn't say as much, but the obvious implication here is that he thought he could get my family back together. But this isn't a fucking sitcom or the birdcage. He's catfishing his very emotionally unstable and religious zealot parents into thinking their faggot outcast son was reconverting. I have no intentions of being in their life ever again, but I'd like to remain in my brother's life, and I don't want this incident to scare him off or sever the small bits of contact we have now. So what do I do? I will not be contacting my parents, nor will I pretend to be straight. Obviously I need to tell him to close the account and stop talking about me to them, but what else if anything? TLDR, I'm gay, religious parents kicked me out, little brother made a fake Insta to convince them that I'm not gay anymore. I do not know how to stop this. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. He's still in the cult, and is trying to drag you back in. I would not be surprised if your parents put him up to that. I'm sorry, but you have to cut him off if you want to remain safe from them. Report the copycat Instagram and have it taken down. Reply. That was one of my first thoughts, but I don't know. He seemed very genuinely engaged with my life in a way that didn't seem coax-trained. He also had pictures with friends in gay pride flag shirts, and has talked about going to parties, drinking, smoking weed, Marvel movies, etc. The internet seemed to connect him away from the cult as it did for me. Plus, if this was some elaborate ruse, why would he make the fake Instagram in the first place? Also, if be barely coaxing exposed everything, my brother clearly can't lie well. Top comment. Commenter. Maybe he wants grounds to escape to you. Look bros, all fixed. I can go visit him during summer without being banished. I don't think it was a ploy to drag you back in because he wasn't trying to convert you, he was trying to deceive them. If this could help him have a sane and safe outlet, that'd be great. He may also really miss you and just wish you could be unbanished. But you obviously should not have to put on an act to go home. Entirely, fuck that. But the poor kid is trapped and odd coping mechanisms are to be expected, really. I'm most curious about what his intentions were. Update. Thank you all for your illuminating comments. I'm honestly overwhelmed at the response and apologize for not replying much, it was so much. But I'd like to specifically thank you my man for his comment, which suggested that this was not him trying to rope me back in, but him trying to escape the cult. You were exactly right. Today we talked for the first time since our conversation. He took down the Instagram after our conversation, which I hadn't noticed at the time of writing the post, and I gently asked why, exactly, he did this. He's 15, so he didn't quite have the language to say, I'm being abused and need to leave the JW. What he said, instead, was that mom and dad are crazy and he's become disillusioned with the cult. He even used the word cult. He still believes in God and wants to explore different sects of Judeo-Christianity. My hometown is a small place in the Midwest, and everyone knows who the JW are. They're like those people. So he couldn't covertly go to another service without someone recognizing him and it getting back to my parents. His motive was pretty much what my man said. He said he wants to visit, hang out, and explore the religions around Chicago, but the only way my parents would allow him to leave town is if they knew exactly where he was, who he was with the whole time, etc. So in his head, propping me up as converted was the only way to make it happen. I told him I was completely uncomfortable with that, and that my relationship with my parents is over. He apologized, and pretty much already knew the logistical problems. I think this was a very maturing ordeal for him. I established myself as a lifeline. I told him that if it ever gets too much, I will pay for his train ticket and he can stay with me for as long as he likes, even moving in for the remainder of high school. And I mean it, I have enough space, and my aunt will help with childcare extra expenses. He seemed apprehensive, but the thought's out there, and he now seems comfortable enough to vent about the church my parents my crazy-ass sister directly. As for my parents, I just told him to cold turkey stop talking about me. If they ask, and this was suggested by Julie, my bride-to-be, he will tell them that I might have refunded Christianity but I have no intentions to return to the Watchtower, and that he stopped talking to me. Leaving JW for any reason is grounds for excommunication, and I put my actual Insta on private, in case they go looking. They might think I'm not gay, might now have the sliver of hope that I'll return to them, but that's honestly not my fucking problem. And for the guys who suggested this was a honeypot, no. No 15-year-old can act this well. He's so full of love and kindness, and as fucked up as his plan was, it was at the end of the day because he is panicking in a toxic environment. Thank you all, again. My brother is back in my life, and I now have the means to help him. Thank you, thank you, thank you. TLDR, my brother made the fake Insta so he could have an excuse to visit me. I told him if he ever wants to escape my parents, I will be here for him to move in with. The Insta is deleted. Thank you. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Pretty sure I'll be downvoted for this, but it's lame as hell that you won't go along with it just so your brother can have somewhere safe to go when he needs to. No one said you need to be best buddies with your parents again, and them having kicked you out for any reason is a good reason to not have to befriend them. Reply. The logistical problems are insurmountable. What if, instead of sending a 15-year-old alone on a trip with a previously gay son, they all take a trip? What if they try to contact me? Meet me, wife. Again, this isn't asterisk the birdcage, and the point of the birdcage is that you can't hide who you are, even if it's to earnestly help a loved one. Stories number 12. Aita 4. Exposing myself to my MIL. The truth of the matter is that I don't actually care if anyone thinks I'm an ass for what I did, because it accomplished exactly what I wanted. I, 35F, have a very nosy MIL who thinks she can walk into my house any time of day or night. Shortly after moving into our house, my MIL rented the house next door and liked to sneak into our house late in the evening or in the middle of the night to hold our newborn. She doesn't knock or ask, and now I have a baby who has her nights and days mixed up, and I'm up all hours of the night with the baby whenever my MIL decides to stay home. That I get that she thinks she's doing us a favor by taking the night shift with the baby, but she'll actually wake the baby up to hold her. So I was sitting on the couch bemoaning the fact one evening to my husband that his mother needed to learn boundaries. I joked around that it would be hilarious if she one day came in unannounced and walked in on us making out, or something even worse. Right then I heard footsteps outside the house and said, "Just watch, that's probably her right now." My hubby says to me, "Quick, take off your shirt." I comply. He whips off his own shirt, throws a big blanket around us so that it covers our pants, and wraps his arms around me in an embrace. When the front door pops open, we both shriek and pull the blanket up to cover ourselves. Her face was priceless. It took her a few moments for her brain to register what she was seeing, then she whirled around, slammed the door shut behind her and practically ran down the sidewalk next to our house. Since that day she always calls first to make sure it's safe to come over. Stories number 13. I do not understand this kind of entitlement at all, lack of basic self-preservation. My daughters, 32F, live-in boyfriend, 34M, and the father of our grandchild, of whom we have custody, has a level of entitlement I frankly cannot understand. I'm just left with my mouth gaping open at his attitude. He moved to our state 5+ years ago, following our daughter after he was evicted from his family's homes for being a deadbeat. Both his mother and aunt have kicked him out and will not allow him to return. His mother kept his dog and kicked her son out. That's funny to me. Since his arrival he's not held a regular job for more than a week. His most recent example was him working for a grocery store in the deli. He quit after a week when they passed him over for an assistant manager spot. A week. He started many jobs in the past 5 years and quits nearly immediately after they offend him in some way, which usually is a trumped-up reason based on some slight offense, mostly not treating him like the royalty he thinks he is. Another example, friend of a friend got him a job on a construction site. He just had to arrive with safety boots and he'd be guaranteed to have a job holding a sign that said slow stop on it. Just stand there and hold the sign. He missed the start date. However, he lucked out as the FOAF involved was sick that first day and they rescheduled a start for the following week. Boyfriend didn't show. No job for you. He's done some DoorDash and similar gig work but will only do it if his girlfriend goes along so she can do the jump out and get dropped the package part of the gig. He just wants to drive. This means that he is only willing to work when she isn't at work. This is now moot since their cars have been repossessed. Daughter later lost her $25 hour full-time job, her fault, see below TLDR note, and is now cleaning houses Airbnb APTs as gig work. She's their sole income source. At one point he got into a state program that gave you a place to live, gave you drug alcohol employment counseling, meds, and worked to integrate you into society. He didn't last a week after he refused to participate in group counseling sessions, and, of course, participation is a requirement for the program. There was a time where our daughter was in jail rehab where he didn't have a place to live and was living on the street. He'd rather do that than get a job. He also refused to stay in a shelter. It was beneath him. There's certainly a victim component here. Nothing is ever his fault, everything happens to him and it's all terribly unfair. He has to be the center of attention. He left a play date with his kid after they weren't paying enough attention to him. There's an entire history here that rapidly gets into TLDR territory, drugs, DV charges, child neglect, TPOs, etc. They're all relatively minor misdemeanor charges and issues, the kind of things the judge gives you probation for. He's also failing to participate in any of his probation requirements, therapy, drug testing, and is likely to be violated soon. Most of what seems to be missing is, to me, basic self-preservation. If I meet my probation requirements, I don't go to jail. If I work this week, I can buy food. He seems to lack any awareness of cause and effect. For the record, he spent about a week in jail after the DV thing and was calling his girlfriend multiple times per day to bail him out. He doesn't like jail but won't do anything to avoid it. She did bail him out and he missed his court date afterward. I just cannot understand that he doesn't seem to understand that, if you work, then you can eat and sleep in a bed. His avoidance of employment, and any form of responsibility, is like some sort of compulsion or mental illness. There's nothing rational about it. It strains my liberal brain, the part that says, give people a hand up, not a handout. He only wants the handout. Any hand up is refused. Thanks for reading my rant, apologies for the ellipses and parenthetical remarks. I write like my ADD brain thinks, which is with lots of parentheses. Stories number 14. To fool by showing my wife to swipe right and see the popular feed. Not a big fuck up but I feel bad. My wife is new to Reddit. Her profile is maybe 2 years old. I told her how it works and she's enjoyed it so far. My wife is very wholesome and has been filling her feed with things she likes, like I told her to do. She searched for subreddits she's interested in and joins them and enjoys her feed. Simple enough. I've been keeping her up to tabs on current events, in everyday conversations. This happened in the world, so and so is in the news, that happened at this place sort of thing. She's always just asked me where I'm getting my information from and I just tell her Reddit. She's always just sorta responded back with, huh, I must have missed that, or I didn't see that at all in my feed. My first really big clue was the Musk seed Heil and I was honestly quite surprised when she said her usual default response. Second flag was when she said she never noticed the massive influx of subreddits requesting to ban all ex-Twitter posts. Last night, I decided to forego our usual evening wind down and cuddle while watching unimportant YouTube videos in the background. I decided to put on music and talk about our day and just enjoy each other's company. I showed her something on Reddit that I thought was funny and she laughed and said, OMG, where did you see that? Send it to me. And I told her it should be in her feed, just scroll down from the top posts. So she did and said she couldn't find it. I then asked her to show me her feed and it was all our cats, our dogs with jobs, our corgis, our sewing, are baking, etc. etc. I said you're in your custom feed, just scroll right. The look on her face went blank and she asked what did I mean, scroll right. I said swipe right and you'll get to the popular feed. Swipe right again and you'll get to the watch section where it's all videos. She just dropped her jaw and told me she never knew about that. Oh, said oh, that finally makes sense, and showed her how to mute certain subreddits if she didn't want to see them. I went about our evening and thought nothing of it, except I totally fucked up. She came home from work tonight just totally numb. I asked her what was wrong and she told me she's just been in an unfiltered popular doom scroll all day. She's only known like highlights of what's going on in the world from what I've told her. Now she knows everything and I'm afraid I broke her. I feel bad. TLDR, my wife was only staying in her personal feed and never knew about the popular feed and has been doom scrolling all day. Edit, oh no. I am not responsible or liable for exposing you to unfiltered Reddit. I can at least tell her she's not the only one. Hell, maybe she'll actually see one of my posts for once. Hi honey. I love your butt. Stories number 15. Aita, for asking to divorce my husband after cheating on him. I, 30F, have been married to my husband, 32M, for 5 years. 1 year ago I cheated on him in a drunken one-night stand. The next morning I felt disgusted and confessed immediately. He was devastated, but I begged and pleaded for another chance and he gave it to me. I was ecstatic, practically hugging his feet thanking him. It has been 1 year since then, but I feel like we haven't made any progress. I took all the steps for reconciliation. I went to therapy, both couples and personal. I made it a point to put all his needs and wants first. I gave him space when necessary, but also made it clear I was always there for him. I truly gave it my all, but it didn't even make a dent. He won't touch me, won't talk to me, we have sex, but every time we do it, it's clear he is just doing it out of physical need. I know I don't deserve more, but all I really want is just one sign to tell me that we are making progress. Just one sign that he still cares, that someday we can be like before or at least close to it. Just one sign that the sun is still there. Last night, I was at my limit. I told him we needed to talk and laid it all out. I told him that I loved him and I knew I was at fault, but that it was clear he was never going to forgive me. That as such we needed to stop causing pain to each other and that I wanted a divorce. At first he seemed surprised, and then he got angry. He yelled at me, saying how he knew I would never stick to my word and how he should have never given me the second chance. I got teary at his words, but didn't argue, just said again what I told him before. At this point he left the house and I haven't seen him since. He won't return my texts or phone calls. None of our parents or friends know about my infidelity, so this is the only place where I can get another perspective. I know I am the asshole for doing what I did a year ago, and I'll carry that shame and guilt for the rest of my life. But I don't think that I am wrong for wanting to end both our pains. Aita, for asking for divorce. Edit, I think you guys misunderstand. I am not blaming my husband or the lack of progress for the death of my marriage. I killed my marriage and I will always carry that. I just don't think I am in the wrong to end it now, no matter how much it hurts on both sides. Edit 2, he texted me. Says he is coming home. I don't know what to expect. Comments. Commenter 1. 1 year is nothing. It probably took him 6 months to stop thinking about you having sex with someone else 24/7. How long did it take for you to stop thinking about him cheating on you? Oh wait. Commenter 2. YTA, you destroyed your marriage and expect your husband to snap out of it and get over it. It's only been a year. The one-night stand was a conscious decision and you neglected to tell him about the issues and decided to fuck a stranger. He didn't even tell anyone, so he spared you embarrassment. Commenter 3. YTA, it seems, however, that your husband is still struggling to forgive, and it's truly painful when efforts don't result in emotional healing. Recognizing that both of you are hurting and stuck in the situation is crucial, and it seems like you're aware of that. Update. Before I begin this update, I feel like there are a few things I need to clarify. I made the original post to ask if I was the asshole for asking my husband for a divorce, since I thought it was the best course of action for both of us, not if I was the asshole for cheating. I am already aware that I am an asshole for doing that to him. I said it was a drunken one-night stand, but I never blamed the alcohol. Yes, it was an external factor, but the blame is mine, because the decisions leading to the infidelity were mine. Nothing forced me to cheat. I know that. I didn't ask for a divorce because our progress was too slow, or not as fast as I would have liked. I was willing to work at a snail's pace. The problem was that the progress was non-existent. Not even a hint to show that we might be on the right direction. I felt that it wasn't right for either of us to forever remain in that limbo state. Now for the update. My husband came back home yesterday. He was a lot calmer and this time he started the conversation. Firstly, he apologized for lashing out. He said that he had thought about it, and realized that he was only punishing me, without allowing himself to start healing and forgiving. He asked if I really wanted a divorce. I said no, and that I loved him, but if he was never even at least considering to forgive me, then there was no point in causing more pain to each other. He was silent for a moment, then he hugged me. That was all it took. I broke down crying and hugging him back. He promised that he would try to forgive me. I tried to take things a bit further and he let me. I'm not going to lie and say that now everything is well. It was clear that the sex was still purely physical for him, and after he didn't treat me much more differently than usual. But now I feel like there is an achievable goal ahead. And that we're both actively trying to achieve it. I guess we're not getting divorced yet. Honestly, probably not many people wanted this update. I'm just highlighting my thoughts, because, again, I can't really talk to anyone else about this. Thank you to those who gave genuine responses to me in my first post. Edit. Since I've read this a lot in the comments, I have told him from day one he is free to tell anyone he wishes about us. I have told him that I would never try to minimize or make it seem like he is lying. I am not concerned with my reputation at all, I just don't think it's my place to take that choice from him. Comments. Commenter 1. As you said, you fucked up royally. He was subconsciously punishing you and himself. You have a huge mountain to climb, but at least you have been encouraged to keep on that path. I'm hoping you don't feel tempted again, because I think that would shatter your husband. Commenter 2. Yikes. I remember your post. You decided to have a one-night stand? Ugh, depends on, you need to rebuild everything: trust, communication, and how you will work it out with your husband. Honestly, cheating sucks. Commenter 3. Yeah, rebuilding trust after that is gonna be a long, tough road. Commenter 4. He deserves better. Commenter 4. I'm just confused on why he didn't jump into the chance of a clean divorce. They don't love each other, they don't respect each other, and no way he's gonna suddenly trust her cheating ass after 1 year. Just walk away, my dude, stop beating the dead horse. He basically gave her hope to what, so they can go another year of this misery. Stories number 16. Are you sure? You are too young to be married. I am an expat living overseas. In the country I am in, there are 3 of us cousins from my dad's side, me, a male cousin, MC, and female cousin, FC. I am inviting FC to our wedding because I've been close to her ever since. Fiancé and I have been godparents to her baby. She has already confirmed her attendance to my wedding. MC is a different story. He is a bit awkward and has the tendency to say inappropriate things. My fiancé and I didn't initially invite him to our wedding because we want to keep our numbers down. A few days ago, fiancé got some financial support from his family, so he is able to add some obligatory invites to our guest list. He said that we can now add obligatory invites from my side, and so MC and his wife were added to the guest list. I sent the invite a few days ago to MC and he confirmed his attendance. Today, I got a FB message from him. Thanks for the invite to your wedding. Are you sure about what you're getting into? You're too young. For context, he is in his late 40s and I am 34. Fiancé is 40. I replied to him, actually, you're right. I am not quite sure. Might cancel the wedding. I'll let you know. He left me on read. Stories number 17. Aita for wanting to break up with my BF because he never pays for anything. I, 18F, have been dating my boyfriend, 25M, for almost a year, and I've started to feel really frustrated with how finances are handled in our relationship. He rarely, if ever, pays for anything when we go out, dinners, activities, even small things like coffee or snacks. I don't mind paying my share, but it's starting to feel really one-sided. He always has an excuse: he's saving money, broke this month, or just assumes I'll cover things. Meanwhile, he still spends on things for himself, like video games or nights out with friends. If I bring it up, he gets defensive and says relationships shouldn't be about money. He makes me feel great. Aside from this problem, he is caring about my needs, just not my financial needs. I'm not expecting him to pay for everything, but some effort would be nice. It's starting to make me feel unappreciated and like I'm being taken advantage of. Am I wrong for feeling this way? Stories number 18. My SIL F31 disinvited my wife F28 from her baby shower after a joke, but my brother M35 still wants me M30 to go. I am stuck in the middle. I am 30, recently married the love of my life F28, and I'm super close with my brother M35. We always imagined our families being close too, until one single lunch ruined everything. So, my wife and I went out to eat with my brother and my SIL F31, who is pregnant and about to give birth to my first nephew. Needless to say, we are all very excited. Mid-meal, my brother, probably feeling sentimental, goes, "Man, I hope the baby turns out like me. He was such a cute kid." Now, a bit about my SAL. She's usually nice and I like her, but she's definitely type A and a bit high maintenance. Without missing a beat, she shuts my brother down. "No, I'd much rather he turns out like you." A bit of an awkward comment and my brother probably thought so as well, so he goes, "No, seriously, we'd be lucky if the kid was like me. He was such a nice and cute kid." And then SIL doubles down, "No, but you're so much more handsome," before turning to look directly at me and adding, "No offense." Now, look. I wasn't deeply offended, my brother is a very good-looking guy, so I get it. But who just says that out loud? My wife, who had been quiet up to this point, clearly found it rude. So she jokingly goes, "Well, as long as the baby doesn't look like SIL, we should be fine." I chuckled. My brother laughed. SIL did not laugh. She immediately got pissed, glared at my wife, and went, "What the hell does that mean? That's extremely rude. We're not close enough for jokes like that." My wife was taken aback and so was I. My brother tried to say something but she stormed out. My brother followed her, looking about as confused as I felt. Fast forward to today, SIL has officially disinvited my wife from the baby shower celebration. My wife says she doesn't even want to go, which, fair enough. My brother is devastated and really wants me to be there. Now, here's the thing, my brother adores me. He's always been my biggest supporter, and he wants me to be a big part of my nephew's life. He's having his first child, and this moment is really important to him. I love my brother too and can't see him sad like that. He says both my wife and SIL need to apologize eventually, but we shouldn't force it right now and give them some time to cool off. He also thinks SIL owes me an apology for what she said, but again, pregnancy hormones or whatever, so he doesn't want to push it yet. My parents actually side with my wife and think SIL was out of line first. But they also believe I shouldn't miss such a huge moment in my brother's life, and that we should cut SIL some slack because of her pregnancy. Here's my issue, I don't feel right going if my wife isn't welcome. I want to support her, but I also know this moment means the world to my brother. If I go, my wife might feel abandoned. If I don't, my brother will be heartbroken. I feel completely stuck. Stories number 19. Aita for freaking out at my friends after they implied my husband was a predator. I 27F and my husband 29M have been together 10 years and married for 6. He's the love of my life. When we got together he moved in with me and my family because I lived with my parents at the time in a very expensive city. I have 3 younger siblings, 16F, 14M and 12F. For all their 14th birthdays I've always said I would take them on a trip. We took my sister on a trip for her 14th birthday and now at the end of this month we are taking my little brother. My husband and my brother get along better than anyone. Neither of them have a brother, my husband has a sister and my brother is the only boy out of 6 of us, so they gravitate towards each other and it's incredibly sweet to see. It's like they were meant to be brothers. Last night I was hanging out with a few of my friends and I was talking about how we were planning on taking my brother on a trip and I joked about how I would be third wheeling the entire time. BC they get along so well. A few of my friends laughed but one of them gave me a weird look. She said that sounded really weird and inappropriate if my husband is giving my younger brother more attention than me. I said no, it wasn't like that at all, they just get along well and it was a joke. Said friend then said it was inappropriate that my almost 30 husband is so close with my brother who is a minor and said she wouldn't be surprised if it was like a grooming situation and I am blind to it. I freaked the fuck out, not gonna lie. I yelled at her, how dare she imply anything like that about my husband who she has met and gets along with, and she's the pervert if she thinks my husband, who was the only boy, bonding with my younger brother, who is the only boy, is inappropriate. I left then and went home and since then the group chat has been blowing up with people taking sides, either agreeing that it is kinda weird and others saying she was way out of line and needs to get over herself. I haven't told my husband because I don't want him to feel weird but I'm starting to feel bad about how I handled it and thinking I overreacted and should have just left. Aita. Update. I did tell him because I wanted him to 1. Know why I was so pissed off all day and 2. Hear it from me in case it becomes a bigger thing. He was obviously hurt. I told him he did nothing wrong and that it was her who was nasty. I ended up sending a text in the group chat and blocking everyone who made a case in defense of her. I refuse to allow some stupid cunt ruin a beautiful friendship between soul brothers. Stories number 20. Aita for not respecting my ex's girlfriend's right to holidays with her kid. Content warning, Easter Bunny is not real. I, 31F, divorced my ex-husband, 33M, when I was 19. He is currently dating my former coworker and roommate, 28F. I set them up at a time when my ex-husband was a great father, employed, and generally a great friend to me. We just weren't capable of healing the marriage when we split. She was, at the time, a struggling single mom, who lived with me rent-free. I got her a cell phone and paid for her kid to attend my children's daycare, and drove her to from work even after she got a job not working with me. Fast forward like 5 years, they're still together, but instead of growing up to meet him, she's convinced him responsibility is for schmucks. She lost custody of that first kid who I tried to help with, and her and my ex now have a 5-year-old. It's Easter week and I find out their daughter is coming to stay with the kid's grandparents for the holiday. My kids, 10 and 12 years old, want to spend the holiday with their sister. Grandparents own a home 10 minutes from mine, so I of course agree. I get to work with Grandma planning delivery of the Easter baskets and egg hiding to ensure my kids get their visit from the Easter bunny. This involves me going over at 1 a.m. to sneak in past their dogs. The Friday before, I have an epiphany and my stomach drops. Grandma hasn't mentioned the plan for the little one. I call and she confirms, littlest has no basket coming because Grandma isn't going to cover for my ex not caring. Absolutely not. I agree he needs to learn his lesson, but this preschooler doesn't need to learn it for him. So I leave my house, I call my kids and ask them what littlest likes and spend $100-ish last minute to make sure she has the equivalent basket, down to the Crocs. I'm fine with this, because it's my choice and little deserves magic in her life. I have a bigger household income, like it's not a huge deal. I never planned to bring it up. Then I find out that it was not financially motivated that little didn't have one. Instead it was that her parents, my ex's girlfriend, went out on Easter Eve and spent their funds. Now I'm mad. And then the girlfriend tells my ex, who in turn calls me, that she's mad I stole the holiday from her and I should have let her do it later when she could buy the basket. From that point forward, I stopped caring. I buy little Christmas gifts beyond what her parents can afford. I include her by making sure she gets invited to my kids' birthdays and gets special party favors. I buy hand-me-downs and send them with my daughter or hide them in my ex-in-law's house so she has clothes. And right now, I'm again shopping for Easter for this kiddo. Ex's girlfriend borderline hates me for this, but I'm not convinced I'm in the wrong. So what do you think? Aita for completely ignoring her right to holidays as she puts it. Stories number 21. My wife is a true crime addict. Sometimes I think she only married me because of my profession. After a wonderful dinner, and one too many glasses of wine, I went to the kitchen to clean up. I had barely finished washing a single dish when my wife appeared behind me. I figured it out, Molly said, he's a door dasher. Who is? I know who she was talking about, but decided to play dumb. The West Side Slayer. I've looked at all 5 victims and it fits. 6 victims, I corrected her. There's been another killing. Shit, so much for playing dumb. The extra wine was starting to make sense. My lips loosen when I've had too much to drink. I can't talk about ongoing investigations. Don't talk about it, but tell me I'm right. He's a door dasher, right? Who said he? Maybe our killer is a woman. Molly laughed at the suggestion. Over 90% of serial killers are men, and I think this one is a door dasher. There is a 0% chance of that. All the victims recently ordered takeout. I faked my best laugh. Well, 60% of Americans order delivery once a week. So unfortunately that's probably just a coincidence. I could see the wheels turning as Molly considered what I said. Damn, she crossed her arms, I thought I had it. I mean, I wish it was a dasher. We'd have probably caught them already. God, if you'd seen the crime scenes, seen what they've done, I had to stop myself. It was never a good idea to bring work home with you, but the victims, the way they were butchered, the violence was extraordinary. My wife wrapped her arms around me from behind and pressed her head into my shoulder. You'll catch them eventually, I know you will. She kissed the back of my neck and left me to finish the dishes. I only had a butcher's knife left to scrub when she came bursting back into the kitchen. Okay, now I've figured it out. Alright, I said, twisting the knife slowly under the running faucet. Who do you? He's a police officer. I froze. Oh, he's running interference from the inside. Maybe he even works in homicide. You probably know him. She was getting excited, talking faster and faster. Have you read I'll Be Gone in the Dark? The Golden State Killer was a police officer too. You'd love it. I'll let you borrow my copy. I turned around very slowly, knife still in my hand. You might be onto something. I pointed with the knife as I spoke. We stood there silently, waiting for the other to make the first move. I'll go grab that book, Molly said, and left. I took a breath, wiped my brow, and put away the knife. Running interference, I said under my breath, shaking my head. Did she know the whole time? The horrible things I had done. Then she knows that I'm a monster. My wife might be killing all those people, but I'm letting her get away with it. Stories number 22. Aita for taking my friend's sick dog to an expensive vet without her consent while she was away. I, 20M, agreed to dog sit for my friend Alma, 22F, while she was away for a week to see her parents. On day 3, her dog, Cherry, started vomiting and refused to eat. I called her but she didn't pick up, she was at a festival. I panicked and took Cherry to the emergency vet, where they diagnosed her with a blockage and did a $1,400 surgery. Cherry is fine now. Now when Alma got back, I gave her the bill, explaining it was an emergency and that was my only option. She completely blew up, saying she'd never have approved such an expensive option and would have waited to see if Cherry improved. She says she's broke and can't pay me back. Our mutual friends are split. Some say I saved Cherry's life and didn't have anything better I could have done, others say I overstepped by not waiting longer cause it's not like a dog could die that quick. Alma is now ignoring me and told everyone we know that I forced her into debt. Aita. Stories number 23. Am I overreacting in believing that my wife is hiding things from me? Last night I mentioned to my wife to plug her phone in, because she always falls asleep with it in bed. She didn't plug it in, so when I came to bed I played down and it was between us. I went to put it on her charger but for some reason felt like I should see what she's been ignoring me and our family life for lately. There's 2 texts from an unsaved number. Don't be sorry, I am always the fault, or something along that sentiment. So I was curious and opened her phone and the message thread. It's the only 2 messages that exist. I'm a bit interested. Obviously there's been a conversation going at before this. Where is it? It's all been scrubbed. I noticed the message has a muted bell sign. I think to myself, if it were from a random unsaved number, how would the messages be on mute? Took some troubleshooting to figure out how it was applied and what it meant. All her other message threads are intact, no one else is muted. I'm curious how many messages have been deleted, so I log in and pull my phone bill logs, 175 since January 31st. Damn, okay. This ain't just some banter, this is ongoing. How about calls? Yep, there's calls logged on the bill. Damn, one here is logged at 4:50 p.m. for 30 minutes, her ride home. Last week I was walking the dogs and saw her coming down our road toward home from work. She didn't see me and turned back out of the neighborhood. I was confused, so I looked at the location app and she was just driving around the other side of the neighborhood really slowly. She normally calls me her whole drive home. I asked her about it, she said she was listening to a song. I let it pass, weird behavior for her, but whatever. I look at the phone's call logs, everything's been scrubbed. At this point I feel as if something's absolutely going on. I dial number from my phone using *67. No answer. I want to know why, but no, my wife will never be direct and everything is hearsay as it's all been scrubbed. So I begin to audit. I find a second number in the bill logs, many texts, 3 calls, none as long as the other. But it's all been scrubbed too. At this point I'm pissed. All her other messages are intact. Her work contacts are organized and added to the phone, all other ongoing threads remain except these 2, maybe more if quit auditing at this point. I private call this number, a male answers. I told them the call is breaking up and hung up. I'm fed up at this point. My wife is asleep. I say, hey, name. Who is this number in your phone that's been scrubbed completely? She jumps up so fast, I don't think I've ever seen a more deer in headlights look. Immediately she's on the defense, why are you going through my phone? What are you doing? So I called the second number from her phone. At this point she's forcibly trying to take the phone away from me. He answers again, I ask what they have going on. He states, nothing. I ask what were the pictures they exchanged, logged in the bill logs, and he says, it's not here anymore. So I give my wife her phone back and she hangs up the phone. She begins telling me these are her friends from an online game and they run the guild that she's in, and since she's a high level in the guild they have constant communication. Tell me if I'm wrong, but I've been in guilds and never had a 30-minute phone call with the opposite sex leader while driving. I've also never had multiple ongoing conversations with the opposite sex, that were never mentioned, hidden from notifications, and also deleted and scrubbed entirely. It's not like chunks of messages and calls are missing. Selective deletions have occurred for specific numbers that I found. I feel as though I'm being gaslit. But I also feel like I've been gaslit so long it's the reality anymore. Maybe I am just a dick. But I've never had this feeling before. Stories number 24. 2 weeks before my birthday, I told him I wanted an ice cream cake and some flowers. That's what I had been told to do, let him know how I wanted to be celebrated. That was the advice. Don't make him read your mind. If he just knows what to do, he'll be excited to show you how much he loves you on your special day. I didn't hint. I wasn't shy. I sent him the link for the website for an ice cream shop about a 10-minute drive from our place. There were options on flavors and mix-ins, colors and flavors. I want the chocolate cake, I said. Strawberry ice cream. Rainbow sprinkles. Okay, he said. I watched as he started to scroll on his phone. You get 2 ice cream flavors, he informed me as he navigated through the menu. Ooh, I want cookies and cream too. I answered excitedly. Oh, and what do you want for the color on top? Is green an option? Yeah, it is. I watched as he tapped a little more. Oh, he muttered to himself. What? I asked. It looks like you can only get a whole cake. Oh yeah, I shrugged. Well, it's $30. Is that too much? We weren't strapped for cash by any means. Are you sure you really want this cake? I mean, I'd gladly buy you a slice of cake. But a whole cake? Are you even going to eat all of this? I remembered my single slice of cake from Walmart from the year before. I ate it by myself. This year, I wanted the whole cake and the candles. Yeah, I would like this cake, I replied confidently. It's an ice cream cake. The leftovers can stay in the freezer. I don't know. I hate food waste and I don't really like sweets, so I probably won't have any. I guess I can get it for you if you really want. I don't know, I said softly. I do really want it. I mean, it's $30. A heavy silence hung for a second. Oh, yeah. You're right. I finally conceded. My birthday was a random weekday and I received a text late in the afternoon. Work is hectic today. I'll be about 20 minutes late. My heart swelled. 20 minutes was exactly how long it would take for him to run to the ice cream shop to pick up my cake. I was so excited. My mom did this kind of surprise all the time. She would fake us out that we weren't going to get the thing we wanted and then delight in our surprised faces when she pulled out the big gift Christmas morning. But then he walked through the door empty-handed. The cake, I whispered to myself. You said you didn't want it, he replied a little angrily. So you weren't going to the ice cream shop to pick up my cake? Tears started welling up in my eyes. I hadn't really expected it, but then after receiving the text, I got my hopes up. No, he said. I got roped into something and I started sobbing. It wasn't about the cake and it was about the cake. Okay, I'm sorry, he said. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Please stop crying. I'm ordering your cake right now. The cake and flowers arrived 2 days later. The flowers were the big, expensive arrangements from the florist shop, the kind I'd always dreamt of receiving. And the cake was exactly what I wanted, down to the color, but the cake tasted like dust in my mouth. And the flowers reminded me of exactly what I was worth on my birthday. Tell him how you want to be loved and celebrated, and if he doesn't listen, it's up to you to decide what it is that you want to do. Stories number 25. Husband, 36M, is asking me, 35F, to abort an unplanned pregnancy. He tells me I don't care about him if I don't go through with it. I don't know how to make this choice. We have a 3-year-old son together, and while our relationship definitely took a dip in the first 1 to 2 years, it's gone from strength to strength in the last year and we have been happy. I have always wanted a second child. My husband has historically been a firm no, but has been coming around to it of late. Fast forward, and we've gotten pregnant by accident. I want to keep the baby, and am deeply uncomfortable getting the abortion. He tells me it is a physical impossibility that he can have a second child. When I found out, I told him I would find a way to come around to an abortion if he told me there was no way he could do it. He then went on a planned trip away for a month and we didn't really discuss it. I reflected a lot and decided that if I could understand his why, then I would be able to get on board with the abortion, and rather than putting his needs above mine, I would be prioritizing us. But he either can't or won't deconstruct it with me. He says it's just the way it is, and it's just impossible for him to have another one. When I ask him if it is about freedom, sleepless nights, relationship concerns, he tells me it is nothing that can be deconstructed or mitigated, he just simply can't do it. He has gone on to say he can't be involved in its life, he won't interact with it is just goop, and I'm picking a cluster of cells over him. I'm at such a loss because he has told me he will leave me if I don't have the abortion. But I feel uncomfortable having it. I want this baby. I also feel like I tend to put his needs before mine always, and this feels like he is also prioritizing his needs over mine. I'm cognizant that if we both look out for him, who looks out for me? The fact that he is telling me it means I don't care about him, and that I am ruining his life, my life and our future is also adding to how hard this is, and it obviously hurts. I guess I want some perspective. He is saying it will break him. Do I just take that statement at face value and go through with the abortion, because I am very resilient? Having the abortion won't break me. I will find a way to not resent him, so I could have it and most likely find a way to be fine, whereas he is saying he won't be fine. But doing that for him when it feels like he hasn't shown me the same grace feels so violate why somehow. I am also trying to decide what honors my son best, what is best for him. Update. When I refer to my husband saying it's a physical impossibility he means in reference to raising the kid, not creating it in the first place. I don't quite think he got a vasectomy, that's not his style to do that in secret. He just means he feels as though is completely incapable of being involved. He says he won't interact with the child ever or effectively acknowledge its existence. I think he's just using such strong language because I have mentioned that it sounds like he is making an emotional decision, or that his no could be deconstructed and talked about. For example, if he was worried about losing freedom, we could put a plan in place to quell his fears. Single mom, I have a good job, not like super high paying, but I definitely make enough that I can manage this alone, plus I have a handful of amazing friends and some family that would step up. I also plan to consult the people I would lean on first if I do go through with this, because it's not a negligible ask for them either. I am acutely aware that I will most likely be a single mom of two, and while it would be fucked enough to explain to child number 2 why daddy only wants to pick up child number 1, I am very confident in my abilities to raise happy healthy functional children. Stories number 26. Aita for not helping our former friend who tried to get my fiancé deported. I, F26, am white and my fiancé, M31, is originally Japan but has pretty much been living here in the States since he was 13 and yes is a US citizen. I also have a group of friends from college and in that group was a woman who we'll call Karen, F25, who was the sister of our friend who I will call Ruth. Ruth, who is a genuinely nice person, was our friend but her sister Karen was the golden child sibling who only hung out with us because she, Karen, cannot maintain IRL friendships of her own in part due to her antisocial tendencies and their mom pretty much pushed us to let Karen hang out with us since Karen was jealous of Ruth having real friends and we only tolerated Karen because of Ruth, who also didn't really want Karen hanging out with us. When Ruth moved here to the Northeast for college from Mississippi, Karen also followed her and their mom pushed Ruth to let Karen stay with her. Unlike the 5 of us, Karen did not go to college with us, scoffed at the idea of higher education and the only things she knew were what she saw online or whatever her boyfriend of the day was into. Over the years, since gradually became more and more hateful towards the LGBT, Jews and immigrants, bear in mind that my mom is an immigrant from the Czech Republic, thus we started distancing ourselves from her after first noticing it at around 2020 or so. Ruth unfortunately passed away in 2023 after a biking accident but we continued to allow Karen to hang out with us because of pity I guess, but a couple in our group outright cut her off after Ruth's passing while the rest of us just tried to gradually distance her, hoping she'd get the message or get bored and stop trying to contact us. However, the breaking point was on October last year when Karen reported my fiancé to ICE because she thought or wanted to believe he was an undocumented migrant and when we confronted Karen, the conversation boiled down to that she felt it was wrong for me as a white woman to be with an Asian man and she felt that white girls like me should be with men who look like me and she felt uncomfortable with how my family is very welcoming and accepting of my fiancé. I come from a very liberal, upper middle class family, and we'd often take my fiancé out with us on family outings be it at our family's vacation home in Lake Champlain or sailing to Block Island on my grandpa's yacht. That said, Karen felt that someone of my status should be with someone who looked like me, saying that my fiancé didn't deserve my family, or words to that effect, and that she plainly said she wanted my fiancé deported so she could try to hook me up with the brother of her then boyfriend. Mind you, her then boyfriend, with whom she has a kid with, and his brother are misogynists who constantly shares Andrew Tate interviews, can't hold a job for long, yet expects women to stay home and know their place, whereas my fiancé works in mental health and I work for my grandpa's law firm. After that, the rest of us told her to F off and up until the last week or two, we've gone NC with her. That said, after her boyfriend left her and their son, I think on December or so, and the government recently froze funding for welfare programs, she showed up at my door with her baby one day to demand that since my family is well off, I should help her buy her groceries and ask my grandpa to give her a job since her EBT card was declined and her now ex vanished. I reminded her of how she tried to get my fiancé deported and how I'm not her friend so she should just F off. Apparently, she's also been badgering others in our friend group and her mom even called me, telling me off for not helping Karen and trying to justify what Karen did by saying she was just doing what's best for you. I then asked her that since she's Karen's mom, why doesn't she help Karen or take her back in, to which the mom said that her new boyfriend doesn't like having Karen or her other kids around. I reminded Karen's mom that Ruth was our friend but Karen is not and we have no obligations to Karen. Sorry if this is long but it pisses me the hell off. Stories number 27. Wibta if I only spoke German to my husband despite him requesting I don't. IF, 31, recently signed up to sit an advanced German exam with the full support and encouragement of my M, 30, husband. We live in Germany where I work in an English-speaking environment, so to get extra practice in, I told him that after X date, we'd switch to German, which he is fluent in, grew up here. We've managed 2 days so far, where even if he accidentally says something in English I answer in German, but last night he told me he needed a break from me speaking German. I refused, and said it's only for 10 weeks until my exam, then I'll go back to English. He says I don't sound like his wife when I speak German. I asked if it was because my mistakes were jarring or my vocab was causing issues. He said it just didn't feel like he was speaking to his wife. I think it's vital that I stick to my plan, to get my speaking practice in. He seemed a bit sad after I said no. Wiebte if I carry on auf Deutsch. Consensus, asshole people pointed out it must be tiring and irritating to not have a single normal conversation with your spouse. Notable comments. Your husband saying, "You don't sound like my wife," in German isn't about your language skills, it's about missing the natural, intimate connection you share in English. While your dedication to learning is admirable, there's a smarter way to do this that won't strain your marriage. Instead of going full German 24/7, try this. Schedule specific German time slots, breakfast, evening walks, 1 meal a day. Keep emotional or important conversations in English. Maybe do a fun weekly German date night. Use English when either of you needs to feel closer. Think of it like a musician practicing. They don't play intensively 24/7, they have dedicated practice times. You can still ace your exam without making your husband feel emotionally disconnected for 10 weeks. Bottom line, YWBTA. There are many ways to practice German, but you've only got one husband. Find the balance that lets you grow your skills while keeping your relationship strong. Your marriage shouldn't have to take a 10-week pause for an exam. Yeah, I'm in the same position of being a native speaker and my partner wanting to practice. It's great and I love his enthusiasm, but it can also feel tiring, especially in the early stages of learning. There is a compromise to be had of scheduling specific days or time of days so it feels less like being a teacher 24/7. More isn't always better, and there's also something to be said about learning by being exposed to the language outside of the relationship. Everyone is more relaxed with their partner, mistakes don't matter, and you have predictable conversation topics. Being outside, talking to random people in random situations exposes you to new conversations and accents and reactions. So going to meet UPS or chatting with a waiter can offer more practice. Not claiming you're the ass here, but I can only imagine going through the daily stress of work and whatnot. Then coming home just wanting to relax and have a calm conversation with my wife. Only to be met with an extra conversation every time we speak where I'm teaching her grammar through each piece of dialogue. Mauiwai. Ita. I understand why you want to do this, but it's unfair on your partner. I also live in Germany with a German-speaking partner. I did C2 German last year and was very worried about the spoken part, so my partner and I had 1 day a week which was German day. That was more than enough to help me pass. Perhaps suggest something like that. If that doesn't work for him, try to find a tandem partner to help with your spoken German. Or even a friend with whom you can have German coffee dates. Changing the language of your long-term relationship is hard to do, and can be exhausting for you both. And as others have said, your personality does shift when you change languages. I know I'm much less funny in German, for example, and that therefore would change the nature of my relationship with my partner if we were suddenly 100% speaking German all the time. YTA, he's your husband, not your teacher, and he made a plea for just a break. Practice on someone else from time to time, let him have a little bit of English from you at least once a day. Maybe set a plan where you speak English at breakfast, for example, so you have a block of time where he knows what to expect and when not to expect it. YTA, so you decided you two would only speak the language, and then when he expressed discomfort you said his feelings are not more important than your wants. Update. Thanks to most of you for very well thought out and reasonable comments. I tried to read as many as possible and appreciate the different viewpoints. My husband came home this evening, we ate dinner, and I apologized, in English, for not being very understanding. I showed him the post, some of the comments made us laugh so much. We discussed and found a healthy compromise that works for both of us to help me prep but not exhaust him after a long day. I've also taken on your suggestions of other places I can try and hone my German conversation skills and will try some of them out. Stories number 28. I suspect my husband is cheating. When I find her, I'm going to kill her. When I first met my husband it was like a comet fell from heaven and pierced my heart. It was fate. In 2 weeks we were married. It's been almost a decade since. So many beautiful memories. In my darker moments, I anxiously imagined the world taking him from me. A car accident, cancer. I imagined losing him and could only think of killing myself rather than facing the world without him. I love him so much, and I suspect he's cheating on me. I don't have proof, yet. But let's face it. We know everything about each other. Every dirty little secret. And he's been up to something. Several times he's claimed to be running some mundane errand, he takes longer than he should, and when he comes back he's obviously hiding something. That's the thing about being brutally honest for 10 years. My husband is horrible at lying, so this time when he told me he had to go inspect some snow blowers, that it might take some time, I decided to follow him. Which wasn't easy. He was clearly watching his back. When he arrived at some stranger's house, I parked down the block and waited. He was there for about an hour. I quelled my anger and grabbed my knife and pliers. I won't tell you what the pliers are for. After he left, I walked up like I owned the place. The front door was unlocked. Can you believe that? I was going to kill that cheating bitch. When I got to the bedroom I saw her. Holy shit, she was hanging from a noose, still swinging slightly back and forth. She was fresh, not more than 30 minutes dead. Oh fuck, I quickly but calmly got the fuck out of there. Didn't want to leave any evidence. I drove the speed limit home. My husband was in the shower. I waited in our bedroom to confront him. He entered still dripping, towel tied around his six-pack. Where'd you go? You've been killing women, I curtly accused, without me. Love, how could you? What? You don't like killing with me anymore? That's our special thing. We're supposed to do it together. No. I love doing it with you. Is that what all this sneaking about has been? God. I thought you were cheating. I would never. Love, it's not what you think. Well, what is it? Start talking. Fine. He threw up his arms and began rummaging through the closet. It was supposed to be a surprise. He held out a jewelry box and opened it. Inside was an opulent gold chain with 9 polished molars threaded through the chain. I know you love molars, baby. Haven't quite finished the last molar. Only just got it. But. Happy 10-year anniversary. How could I have been so blind? I apologized profusely and kissed my perfect husband. I'm all riled up. What'd say we kill someone tonight? Stories number 29. Aita for telling someone to stop making their insecurities my problem. Some background. I, 29F, used to know Tom, 30M, years ago. We were acquaintances as teenagers, and though we briefly dated at 16, it wasn't serious, and we stayed on neutral terms whenever we ran into each other. A few years later, when we were in our early 20s, I bumped into him at a nightclub, and he introduced me to his then-girlfriend, Alex. From the moment we met, Alex was noticeably cold toward me. She barely spoke, made passive-aggressive comments about my appearance, and created an uncomfortable tension. Sensing the awkwardness, I made my exit. Tom later messaged me to apologize for how she acted, but I brushed it off. I didn't think much of it, as we weren't close anyway. Since then, I've occasionally run into them at different social events, and Alex's attitude toward me has never changed. She has made snide remarks in passing, whispered about me to others while I was nearby, and has generally gone out of her way to be hostile anytime we're in the same space. I've always ignored it because, as far as I was concerned, whatever problem she had with me wasn't my issue. Now to last weekend, I was out with some friends when I saw Alex and Tom at the same venue. Tom came over to say hello and make small talk, and almost immediately, Alex stormed over. Without even greeting me, she shoved her ring in my face and made a pointed comment about how I definitely couldn't have him now. I laughed and told her I never wanted him in the first place, but I was happy for them. That only made things worse. She started raising her voice, accusing me of trying to get attention for years, making assumptions about me, and throwing out personal insults. When she finally finished, I asked if she was done and told her that I had never done any of the things she was accusing me of. I also made it clear that I didn't care about her or Tom and, most importantly, that she needed to stop making her personal insecurities my problem. She looked like she was about to respond, so I added that she also needed to stop being jealous of me because there was no reason for it. At that point, she excused herself and left the room, with Tom following after her. Before he left, he told me I didn't need to say all that. My friends thought my response was blunt but justified, while some mutuals later told me I was too harsh and should have been more understanding because she's obviously insecure. Now, I'm wondering, was I too harsh? Stories number 30. Neighbor parks car in my driveway against my wishes, citing permission from my mother who is crippled with dementia. Homeowner NFH. My mother has Alzheimer's disease. I try to spend at least 3 days a week at my parents' house to help out. Recently I came over after a 2-week work trip away and saw a strange car in the driveway on the side I usually park. I went inside and asked my dad who was visiting. He said no one was visiting, the neighbors had just started parking there. That didn't make a lot of sense to me, so I kept prodding as to why they'd spontaneously taken it upon themselves to park in our driveway. My dad finally broke down and said, "Yeah, well, apparently your mother told them it was okay." She was just a little confused. I asked if he'd told the neighbors there'd been a misunderstanding. He said he had, but they didn't seem to get it. I gave the neighbors the benefit of the doubt at first. My dad is a great guy, but sometimes he can be a little too nice. I figured he hadn't been quite clear enough with the neighbors out of concern for being impolite. So, I went over there. I even brought some Ferrero Rocher chocolates to try and smooth it out. I knocked and nobody answered, even though it was obvious that they were home. I kept at it, getting a little frustrated at that point. Finally, a woman came to the door and opened it barely a centimeter before shouting, "We're not interested," and closing it again. I stood there and explained who I was. Nothing. Eventually I went home. I lingered by the window for the next few hours hoping to catch someone when they came out of the house. It wasn't until a couple days later that I was able to intercept the man, completely by chance. We were both coming out of our house at the same time, and at first he wanted to avoid me, but he realized his car was in my driveway, so he had no choice. I still tried to be friendly. I introduced myself. I told him my mother wasn't well and that anything she told him could not be taken at face value. I said we did need both parking spots. This guy kind of nodded and yesed me, but I got the feeling it wasn't the end when he left. Sure enough, there weren't any problems for the next few days, but eventually I did have to go back to work. The first day I was gone, my dad called me and mentioned they were parked there again. I tracked down their phone number and called, but, shocker, they did not pick up. I came back a day earlier than I'd planned, and sure enough, there was the car. I went over to the house, all facade of friendliness gone. The woman of the couple came to the window, clearly saw it was me, and still didn't answer. So, I ended up calling the police. I just told them my neighbor had erroneously parked in my driveway and were ignoring my requests to move. An officer came down and took my side of the story, then knocked on the neighbor's door. The woman had the nerve to continue ignoring them. The cop did not have time to be playing those games. He pounded on the door and basically ordered the residents out of the house. The husband came out of the house, huffing and puffing, acting like it was the most major inconvenience he's ever experienced. The police officer said, "Your neighbors need you to move your vehicle from their property." The guy starts trying to claim he can leave his car there because he has a verbal contract with my mother who has dementia. I'd already told the officer that, obviously. The neighbor was really feeling himself, playing lawyer, but the cop stopped him and basically said, "That was then, this is now. Now they want you to move it. Move it or it's gonna be towed." The neighbor said he had to talk to a lawyer and do this and do that. The police officer reiterated that he had two choices, move it or get it towed. The neighbor blurted out, "But we have a new car, and if we move this back here there won't be enough space." At that point the cop was done playing games and was on the phone with the tow people when they finally went to move the car. The cop told the neighbors if they tried bringing their car back over, they'd be trespassing, and the police would just send someone to tow it away. They're brooding and whining and trying to tell others in the neighborhood we were in the wrong and misled them, but luckily no one is falling for it. Stories number 31. Aita for slapping a girl as hard as possible. I, 14F, really like to read, and I'm very good at it. I read at a 12th grade level, so I'm pretty smart. I also have an older sister, Katie, 17F, who is almost completely illiterate. She can't read at all because she suffered a really bad concussion. At school, there's this girl named Audrey, 15F, who's a bit of a bully. One day, she said, "Oh, there's this girl in my class who's 17 and doesn't know how to read." I think that's so embarrassing. Like, I was reading at the age of 5. Then she kept making fun of Katie, saying that she's incompetent. I said to Audrey, "Shut the fuck up, that's my sister." But she didn't care and told me that my sister should be better. She kept making fun of Katie, so I got up, walked over to Audrey, and slapped her. There was a big mark on her face afterward. Audrey started crying, and I got called to the principal's office. They suspended me for a week. I was just trying to stand up for my sister. Stories number 32. I gave my cousin over $2,000 worth of baby items. She sold them on FB within hours. What do I do now? General advice. Hi Reddit. First-time poster. Long-time reader. I'm looking for some advice from other mamas, and a safe place to slightly vent. My favorite cousin is having her first baby. Twins, boy and girl. And I have a girl, 17 months. She is married and alone. She makes over $70,000 per year and receives a healthy stipend from an incident causing PTSD while she was deployed. Her husband works career military. They own a home. Just bought a brand new vehicle. Full VA insurance for everyone in their family. I am a single mother who is lucky to see $45,000 a year with overtime. Child support is $39 a week and he doesn't pay. I live with someone to help with the cost of housing. I live the definition of living paycheck to survive. Alright, now the story at hand. Last Saturday I gave my cousin a lot of baby stuff. Examples: 10 bags, boxes of clothes, sheets, blankets, bibs, swaddles, burp rags, a baby Breeza, 2 puree steam makers, a cart, infant car seat and base, 2 angel care bath seats, baby toys, 15 bottles, several sleeves of diapers I couldn't exchange, shoes, socks, anything I could bag, box up and pass along. When she picked the items up she made very negative comments about the stuff that was there but insisted on taking it all. She made a nasty comment about the Breeza and formula feeding parents. Within 5 hours of her taking the items, almost everything was posted for sale on our local nosy neighbor's FB page, and from the post she sold everything within a few hours of posting. I feel very wronged and bamboozled by her taking my items. I was planning on creating her an approximate $300 postpartum care kit for her baby shower, but from evidence of the FB post she got more than that from selling all my stuff. I feel so deeply hurt, and like anything, everything I gave her wasn't good enough. Do I even buy her a baby shower gift at this time? Further backstory: she has only seen my daughter 4x since she's been born. And one of them was the day she was born, and my cousin made repeated nasty insulting comments towards my daughter and her looks. Note: my baby won a Gerber baby advertisement contest at 4 months old because of her cuteness. The most recent interaction was Christmas, and my cousin purposefully avoided me and my daughter through the whole Christmas. And I have such a hard time parting with baby stuff because it feels like giving away memories of my child's babyhood, and I thought the items would have been used to make memories with my cousin's baby like it did. And to shit on the baby Breeza really gets to me. I feel like she's living in a delusional world, like she'll never ever use any form of formula. The hurt from this situation has me question our years of relationship and future involvement in each other's lives honestly. I vowed to never let someone claim to be in my village but not participate. Stories number 33. Men have really got to start learning to take no for an answer, and with grace. Seriously, it's not sexy or romantic to push your luck when she has very clearly told you that she doesn't see you as anything more than a friend, or that she isn't looking for a date or for a relationship. When a woman tells you she sees you as a friend or that she isn't looking for a relationship or a date with you, this isn't her playing hard to get. And this isn't your cue to make a pass at her, this is your cue to back off. Had a random guy, a stranger, at work approach me in an elevator, and he tried striking up a conversation with me and asked for my number. I'm generally a pretty friendly and approachable person, so I had no problem with that. I gave him my number but politely told him very clearly that I'd love to hang out but that I'm not looking for a relationship or a date, to which he responds that he's just looking to make friends cause he apparently feels alienated at the new workplace. But what does he actually proceed to do? He then proceeds to text me every day, wants to spend his breaks with me every day. I've cut him off a few times and even told him I was busy a couple of times and I'm not always responsive to his texts. And on one such break, when we were hanging out together, in the middle of a random conversation when I was busy ranting to him about what and how stressful my work is, he then walks around me to give my shoulder a quick 2-second massage, playing it off as though he was just innocently trying to calm me down. Mind you, this was the very first time when we went on a break together and after I told him I wasn't looking for a relationship or a date. Only this isn't the first time that men have tried to act this way with me. It's happened numerous times. I tell them I'm not into them or that I don't see them as anything more than a friend. They then take that as their cue to push harder. What part of the sentence, "I'm not into you as anything more than a friend," or "I'm not looking for a relationship or a date," do these guys not get? What part of that is hard to understand? I understand that age-old sentiment that men often have about women, which Andrew Schultz once so articulately put this across on his Flagrant podcast, long ago, to a man, no, can sometimes mean maybe. I'm paraphrasing his words, but the gist is the same. Basically, it's this idea that women are sometimes unsure about how they feel about you and need time for feelings to develop. Guess what? There is some truth to that statement, but that truth was not born out of situations where men have gotten pushy after being rejected. That truth was born out of situations where women have noticed how a man gracefully accepts rejection, and sometimes, just sometimes, that leaves room for doubt in some women's minds about whether she did the right thing by rejecting him. How smoothly you handle rejection says a lot about you, man, woman, it doesn't matter. Because it takes a lot of self-assuredness and self-respect to accept rejection with grace, and that is sexy. Stories number 34. Aita for refusing to remove a tattoo for my current partner. My 24M girlfriend 29F and I have been together 2 years. I only have one tattoo. I got it when I was 19 and it was given to me by my ex-girlfriend. The tattoo, while it's not directly about or for my ex, she was the person to tattoo it on me. It's a small, minimal tattoo. My ex and I never broke up. She died unexpectedly in an accident. I was 21. I haven't been in a serious relationship until this one I'm in now, because I've taken time to overcome the loss and all the associated trauma. To me, my tattoo holds a lot of meaning. It extends beyond the relationship I had with my ex. I've tried to explain that to my girlfriend, but her thinking is black and white. If you're over her, just get it removed. Can't you do this for me? Don't you want to move on? It means you're stuck in the past. These are some of her arguments. Aita for wanting to keep my tattoo. Comments. This is a good way of putting it. It seems like the thing I need to remove from the comments here is my current girlfriend. Exactly. It's not directly anything to do with her, it's just that she gave it to me, even when I had it done by her. It was a tattoo I was getting for myself. And while it did take on the added meaning of being something that exists in a world where she no longer does, and will always be connected in that way, it's not something to be competed with. I wish I'd shared the deeper backstory about my tattoo with my current girlfriend earlier. I think I took too long in establishing this side of my relationship with her, having her earn my trust before letting myself become vulnerable to a point where I could share traumatic memories with her. All for her to say remove your tattoo. SMH. Maybe I'm an idiot and I don't know how to spot them, but I genuinely saw no red flags. This is our only real issue in our relationship, but unfortunately it's a huge one. She did have some concerns even before I told her my story. She worried how my tattoo would be perceived, specifically by her parents, because tattoos historically have bad association in my culture, but it's not a big tattoo, it's very clean and not visible when wearing most clothes. She knew about me and my past, she knew everything. This tattoo is the least bad thing about me, but to her it's the most intolerable. I didn't talk about her at all until recently, when I decided to open up and share the story about my tattoo, and that's when the remove your tattoo stuff came out. It's not a part of my past I bring up easily or want to visit or talk to people about beyond what's necessary, and sometimes I wonder if I should just keep it to myself and not tell anyone at all. I thought my current girlfriend was someone I could trust, so I chose to be vulnerable. Maybe I should have laid it out earlier and given her an opportunity to walk away. I only brought her up recently when I told my girlfriend the story behind my tattoo. It's not something I talk about or want to talk about. I have no contact with my late girlfriend's parents. I was studying abroad when all this happened, so her parents live in another country. Her mom tries to reach out, but I don't. I went to therapy after this and it was discouraged. Yeah. I think it's on me a little for taking so long to open up, but that's something I'm working on. It's a bad personality trait I've always had, even before what happened to my late girlfriend, and her dying just made me even more guarded. What I think is unfair is that people hold unresolved feelings for ex-partners all the time, whether they have a tattoo or not. But the presence of my tattoo, even though I've put in all the work and moved on from my feelings, makes my girlfriend judge me unfairly because it's there. She thinks it means I'm stuck in the past. But it's not true. It hurts because sharing all of this with my current girlfriend was my way of giving her all of me. Update. Thank you everyone for answering my question. I talked to my girlfriend, and even though I've explained in the past, I tried to explain again one last time, thinking maybe if we could communicate our feelings more clearly we would get past this misunderstanding. I explained my tattoo is personally meaningful to me in a way that has nothing to do with my ex. It doesn't mean I haven't moved on or that I'm stuck in the past. We talked for a long time and I did not break up with her because of how this conversation went. I genuinely believed we overcame it. A few days passed. She drank too much while celebrating a work milestone with her colleagues. She called me that night to come to her place. She was in a good mood that night. I fell asleep first. While I was asleep, she stubbed a cigarette on my tattoo. I broke up with her because I can't take it anymore, her fixation with my tattoo. Comments by OOP. Fortunately the burn doesn't seem to be too deep, so if I take care of it, it will probably be okay and heal by leaving a lighter mark, then I'll get a touch-up. It's not a big or complicated tattoo. It's clear to me now. But it took me so long, because I think I was just convinced by the conversation we had. I was stupid, and also, I was finding it hard to separate my feelings. Editor's note, OOP ignored any question about whether he had filed a police report. Stories number 35. My neighbor kept complaining about my garden. I showed him how beautiful it truly was. I was awoken at 7 a.m. by a pounding at the door. Ms. Demi, we need to talk, trilled a voice, muffled through the oak. I already knew who was on the other side. Reluctantly, I opened the door to greet them. Good morning, Mr. Jacobs, I said, sleepy and deadpan. Before me stood Mark Jacobs, my neighbor and the local HOA president. And by the looks of things, he had yet another urgent matter that needed my attention. You violated Article 137 of the bylaws, he spat, again. He angrily pointed at the row of pomegranate trees that lined our shared fence. Your trees reach 2.4 inches onto my property, he said, wrathfully. Fix it, or I'll have your garden mulched. We shall see, I said, stifling a yawn. With one final scowl, he turned on his heels, slamming my door behind him, as he had many times before. I've lived here for many years, ever since coming to America. My beloved daughter had been taken from me, manipulated into a sham marriage back in the old country. So I left. Turned a barren patch of suburban dirt into the most luscious garden this town had ever seen. Neighborhood children played amongst my flowers, their brilliance spilling over their beds. Any who hungered could eat freely of my trees, their boughs heavy with fruit. Naturally, this Mr. Jacobs could not abide. A few days later, I strolled beneath my pomegranate tree's riotous branches. Indeed, they did extend over the fence, no more than a finger's length. I remembered the quivering of Mr. Jacobs' lip. How his face turned puce in anger. And I smiled. Let him make his threats, I thought to myself, confident nothing would come of it. Until I returned home from the farmer's market, a city ordinance was pinned to my door. Effective immediately, all foliage must be removed from shared property line, at homeowner's expense, in compliance with Article 13(7). I stared in numb disbelief. My trees would have to be cut down. Mr. Jacobs stood in his window, a smug smile on his lips as he mouthed two words. I won. The following evening, I met Mr. Jacobs in his featureless backyard to plead my case, citation in hand. Is this really necessary? I asked, can I not trim them? Mr. Jacobs chuckled bitterly as he watered his dull, depressing lawn. That time has passed, he said, turning off the hose and facing me. Next, I want those eyesores you call flower beds dug up. I sighed, knowing it was no use. The rest happened quickly. He never felt the tendrils of vine creeping around his ankles from the wet soil beneath him. Before he could react, he was being dragged downwards, down into the hungry earth. What is this? He croaked, choking as flowers began blooming between his teeth. Who are you? I leaned in close, breathing deep the sweet bouquet of his final breaths. I am Demeter, mortal, and this is my garden. Stories number 36. Fiancé used my childhood trauma to win a video game. I don't even know how to type this or explain my thoughts right now, so I apologize if I seem scattered. I, 31M, have been engaged to my fiancée, 29F, Emily for the past 3 months together for 2 years. She has been the only relationship where I felt safe enough to open up and discuss my past trauma. Many nights I have cried into her arms, and she has been there to comfort me. She goes to therapy with me and has been a rock in our relationship. I have been getting much better since I have really opened up about it and have been able to live a better and liberating life the past 2 years until last Saturday. Emily is ultra competitive not just in sports, but in life. She will do whatever it takes to win and be number one. She has lost friendships, family relationships, jobs, and money. She understands this and has been trying to get better by going to therapy, stating she doesn't know why she is like this. She seemed to cool down over the summer, but she is still very competitive. Even her parents have no idea because they were not athletes and have never pushed her to be number one. And her siblings are confused when this all started. I was a former college athlete and yes, I am competitive but not so much anymore. And recently my friend group have begun a monthly game night. I was on a 4-month win streak. We play board games, old video games, painting, basketball, and even football. And it was all in good fun, but Emily last month was so angry she did not win. She walked home and did not want to talk to me for at least 2 days. Before we left for game night, I asked her to please have fun, and it does not matter who wins. She promised she would try. As game night came to an end, Emily and I were tied with one more event. Rules are if it is man versus woman, the lady chooses the final game. She selected N64 Mario Kart. I am king of that game, I never lose. I asked her if she really wanted to do that and called me a chicken and was big talking she will beat me at my own game. I should have backed off, but I caved, and we raced. Now, common knowledge is, let her win, and trust me, I thought about it, but she gets really angry if she thinks you let her win. Her attitude is way worse than. As we started racing, it was a tight race. She kept hitting the banana peels, but she kept catching up. The last lap she started trying to distract me by saying, he snores when he sleeps, basic middle school insults. Then she tried bumping me to distract me, but I was locked in focused. I responded back, at least I don't keep hitting the bananas, love, very simple and fun. We are in the final leg of the race and that's when she snapped, at least I didn't get SA'd by my own family. I froze up and dropped the controller and she passed me and won. She was jumping up and down with joy, was screaming and dancing that she finally won. From what my friends told me later, that she kept that up for a good while until she saw my face, and that's when she stopped. My friends were in complete shock, asking me if that was true. I could not speak, I couldn't breathe and was fighting back all the inner demons I had swirling in my head. I simply got up and wished them a good night and started walking. I was in a trance, I didn't know where I was walking to. Emily tried calling and texting asking where I was, begging for me to call and come home. Kept saying she is sorry, just wanted to win so badly, and don't know why I said that, I simply needed space, and I told her to please stop calling me. I don't know what to do, I loved this girl and trusted her, but used that trust to win a FNG video game. My friends are asking me about my past and won't leave me alone. I guess all I am asking is there any way back from this or is this the end? Do I dump her or try and work this out? Any advice would be very helpful. TLDR fiancé used my childhood trauma to win a video game. Edit. I want to thank everyone for their comments and DMs, I have been reading all of them for the past 3 hours. I guess I knew this was the end of this relationship, but after spending 2 years with someone and had strong feelings and trust, one wanted to see if a majority of people could see something else that I didn't that could save it. And reading the comments, I guess I overlooked that massive red flags that Emily had. I decided to sit down with my friend group tonight and tell them my past. It will be difficult and will text Emily tonight and meet with her tomorrow. I will update tomorrow after that conversation. Update. Hey all, I want to thank everyone again for all the support. It helped me clear up my head and really reflect the past few months with Emily and finally see the red flags I ignored or didn't press hard enough on. First of all, I need to get this off my chest. From ages 11 through 13 I was assailed by my aunt. She would come over to babysit and she would do the deeds and have me do stuff to her. She would threaten me if I ever spoke out. I tried to tell my parents if she could not babysit, but my mother told me that her sister absolutely loves you and wants to spend time with you since she can't have children. If it wasn't for my dad forgetting his wallet one night, I believe she wouldn't been caught. My mom went mental and did not believe any of it and went on a campaign tour around town saying she is 100% innocent and I am just confused. My dad went into the bottle and tried to enter the shadow realm because he couldn't forgive himself for missing the signs. My mom then threatened me to make an announcement that her sister is not a predator and then attacked me. My dad divorced my mom and she and my aunt moved elsewhere. All these years later she truly believes her sister didn't do the deeds. My dad and I are okay. He does not want to be around me much because of the guilt. Second, I met with my friends and told them my story and they all apologized and promised to help protect me in the future with relationships. They told me what happened after the event. Emily was trying to defend herself by claiming, I did not mean to say it, he took it the wrong way, I just needed to win this, I love him and didn't mean it. She has been calling all of them begging for them to please help her win me back and she will do whatever it takes, and see anyone to help her with her condition. Meeting today with Emily, my friends invited her over and would sit in the other room while we talked. Emily was unhinged, came flying into the house trying to hug me, but my friends held her back and told her to just sit. I asked her why she said what she said. Emily, I don't know, I just needed to win so badly. I followed up with why she needed to win this one. Emily, because it was your best game and I don't know, I just needed to win. I again asked why she needed to win, what was the importance of winning. Emily through her tears, I don't know. I needed to win. She kept repeating the same line over and over, so I asked if she had planned on using my trauma against me and if that is why she chose Mario Kart. I never seen someone go white so fast. Emily just looked at me and put her hands in her face and blurted out, I can't stand not winning and I knew you would get distracted, and I could win and finally feel great. Because these past 4 months I've been so depressed from feeling like a loser and knew I could win with this plan. I was in shock and couldn't believe she said that. I realized that some of the commenters were right, she had this planned. I am still trying to gain control of my thoughts on this one. You had this planned? I asked. Emily, yes. I didn't think about what would happen after, and when I saw your face, I knew I messed up. Please, I want to get help and will do anything, please don't end this. I asked if this was another competition in her head to win me back. No. I mean in a way yes, but not like that, so if you win me back, you'll feel better that you won. I told her I can't trust her anymore. What if we had kids, will you see them as competition? If your friends are being flirted with, will you try and get more attention for the win? What if I am simply doing something and you blurt that out again to win? She had to be escorted out by my friends and was told by one of them I should get a restraining order because her mental of losing you may break her mind and do whatever it takes to win me back. So again, thank you everyone for all the comments. I am going to get more help and take a break from dating until I find someone who I can trust 100%, and now my friends will be on extra guard for any Emily sightings and future dating red flags. Stories number 37. Aita for thinking of leaving my boyfriend because his behavior has gotten worse after the birth of our daughter. I'm using a throwaway for this because my boyfriend sometimes uses Reddit and I think he may know my main account and I don't want him finding this out. We 22F and 27M have a 2-month-old daughter. She is super colicky, she hates being put down, she cries so much. Her pediatrician says she's just a miserable baby and she will eventually grow out of it. My boyfriend wasn't the most supportive during my pregnancy, but now that our daughter has all of these problems, he's gotten so much worse. He complains that we don't have sex enough, he complains she cries too much, he complains that he works too much and I'm a mooch for not having found a job yet. He often leaves me to manage everything while he plays video games or hangs out with friends. It's okay for him to go out and get drunk and stay the night at a friend's house, but he will literally time me when I'm taking a shower and blame me for the fact our water bill is too high. He makes me feel like I'm a failure of a mother because our daughter spits up so much we go through 4-5 outfit changes a day and he complains that it's too much laundry. Some bill is late or behind and he blames me for not contributing to our shared bills even though he promised to take care of us both. My boyfriend won't let us use any type of government assistance because he thinks that's beneath us. But we are constantly counting pennies and I have to go without so we can get the special formula my daughter needs, so she absolutely miserable all the time. We got into a fight yesterday because I placed a Walmart delivery for diapers, wipes, rash cream and I bought myself some Chef Boyardee cans so I can have something to eat while he's at work. He ended up screaming at me yesterday while our daughter was crying and threw a freshly made bottle at my head, giving me a bruise on my forehead. I just started crying because I felt so defeated. I called my mom while he was at work today and just broke down. She said he's just struggling to adjust to fatherhood, and this is what I get for having a baby out of wedlock. She said she struggled hard when I was a child and this is my punishment for not going to college and being a dumb SL%T. I get it some days because she was a single mom too, but I remember being primarily raised by my grandparents and she's never even watched my baby. She doesn't want to because of her medical issues and has told me so. I told my mom I wanted to leave him and she laughed and said I was being dumb and that he's all I've got now and she won't help me. This is after me begging her to lend me some money so I can buy my own groceries and I promised I'd pay her back once I find a job anymore. Sometimes I feel like I am just not cut out to be a parent. I don't feel like a good parent. My mom makes me feel even worse about it and has told me I need to give my daughter to a better family, and when my boyfriend is angry, he's told me he wished he had just left us so he wouldn't have to deal with us any longer. I think I need to leave my boyfriend, but I'm also scared to do that. Am I being dumb about wanting to leave him? Is my mom right? I don't want my daughter to grow up without her father, but he stresses me out so much now I don't even want to be around him because of his behavior. Edit, my grandparents are dead, otherwise I would leave him and go live with them. I called the domestic violence hotline and they are going to put me in touch with shelters. I have $7 to my name and I put our important documents in the diaper bag. Please stop messaging me telling me I'm a dummy or I should have aborted my baby. I can't turn back time now that she's here. I regret who her father is, but I don't want to give her up. I want to leave him and I'm doing my best to get that in motion. I'm going to leave as soon as I can once a shelter has a place for us both. Edit 2, there is a domestic violence shelter but they won't have a space for us until next Monday. The shelter is going to put me and my daughter up in a hotel starting on Friday. I'm going to get a protective order against my boyfriend and try to get as many of our things out of this apartment until then. I've taken photos of the bruise he gave me. Going to be doing a lot of packing while he's at work tomorrow and Friday. I'm going to apply for as many social services as I can too and I hope I get approved for them fast. I'm slowly getting a plan together to fully leave him. I will update everyone again once we are in the hotel or in the shelter on Monday. Thank you to everyone who's offered help, a place for us to stay, offered food and clothing and stuff I may need once I'm in the shelter and back on my feet. I know I will be better off once I leave him, so I just have to keep going until then. Stories number 38. Whitey, am I the jerk for refusing to let my sister-in-law bring her kids to my wedding? I, 28F, am getting married to my fiancé, 29M, in a few months. We're having a smaller, intimate wedding with close friends and family. I'm a bit of a perfectionist, and this wedding is something I've been dreaming about for a long time. I've been planning everything meticulously, and I want to keep the guest list under control to maintain the vibe we've envisioned. My sister-in-law, 35F, who has 2 young kids, ages 5 and 7, asked if she could bring them to the wedding. She said that she didn't have anyone to watch them that weekend and didn't want to miss out on the celebration. I've been trying to keep the event adult only, so I politely told her that we were not having children at the wedding, and I would love for her to attend but would prefer if she could find a sitter for the kids. She seemed fine with it at first, but then a week later, she started texting me about how it wasn't fair for her to miss out on the wedding because of her kids. She also said that it would be awkward for her to come alone without her children, especially since we're having family at the wedding. She implied that it was a bit elitist to not allow kids, and it made her feel like I didn't value her family. I still stood my ground and told her that I understood her frustration but that this was the decision we made for our wedding, and I wasn't going to change it. Now, she's been telling other family members that I'm being unreasonable and that I don't care about family, and a few people have reached out to me, saying I'm being too rigid. I don't want any drama, but I also don't think I should have to justify my decision about my own wedding. Am I the jerk for not letting her bring her kids? Stories number 39. I don't do anything at my job and sleep and scroll social media all day. I work in accounts payable as a contractor currently. When I first got here I worked very hard and wouldn't take my lunches. But over time my motivation to work has reached near zero. Nowadays I get into my office, sit on my phone reading manhwa for 5 hours. I keep one hand on my mouse and always have some task on my monitor to look busy when someone walks by. I take my lunch 30 minutes early and stay 30 minutes late, and just sleep in my office for 2 hours. On Mondays and Fridays I work from home. I just put a battery on my spacebar so it says I'm active on Teams, and I just sleep all day. No one has caught on, or if they have they just don't care. Starting to feel guilty. Stories number 40. Men who ask you nothing about yourself and then fall in love with you. While casually dating I encountered an interesting phenomenon in the process. There seems to be a pattern of seeing men who ask me little to nothing about myself, who then eventually confess to having feelings for me despite knowing nothing about me, and it doesn't discriminate. Men of different races, ages, men I met in person or online, men of vastly different looks and financial backgrounds all come together in their spiritual dedication to learn nothing about me. We would have a basic conversation that would go as follows. They express an interest, I express interest in said interest and or encourage them to speak more about it. They talk ad nauseum about themselves and I attempt to spice up the conversation by speaking about a relevant interest of my own. The conversation boomerangs back to something about them immediately with no acknowledgement of my existence, and they continue to talk about themselves. Or, I express an interest, they often don't know how to further the conversation, so I redirect it to relate it to them, and they speak it to death as if I were a wall. I capitulate and listen because it's less tiresome than repeating what I already tried 10 different times earlier. It's very interesting, and it always leads to them telling me, sooner or later, that I'm everything they think they've been searching for in a partner. And I never feel the same way because there is no reciprocation or even a crumb of a connection. I didn't always have this issue, but as I enter my 20s and date men in their early mid to late 20s it seems to be recurring.